Chapter 1394. Knowing that Wu Lingling was close to the hooligans outside the school, Mrs. Tang and Mr. Tang also made changes to their work. They no longer focused on their work. Originally, they only went home once a month. Now, they went home at least twice a week. Basically, every Friday, either Mrs. Tang or Mr. Tang would personally drive to pick up Tanghua. Tanghua was quite satisfied with this result. The scene of the two of them picking up Tanghua from school would occasionally be seen by the hooligans outside. Originally, because of Wu Lingling and Tanghua's relationship, they had planned to let Wu Lingling trick Tanghua into coming out to play. But now, they gave up. Except for Wu Lingling, who would glare at Tanghua fiercely and hatefully every time. Tanghua's life and studies could be said to be very peaceful. She might feel peaceful, but the students in the school did not feel the same way. Especially Tanghua's classmates. They realized that their merit students' grades had improved again. In the past few tests, she had scored full marks in all the science subjects. It was beyond their reach. They could no longer be jealous. They could only look up to her and envy her. Moreover, they could not be jealous of Tanghua. This good student not only improved by himself, but he also patiently helped them, allowing them to improve together. Wu Lingling was walking in a dark direction, farther and farther away from the light. Tanghua, on the other hand, was walking in the opposite direction. The more she walked, the brighter she became. In the eyes of the students and teachers, no matter where she stood, she was shining brightly. She was perfect and impeccable. In junior high, every time Wu Lingling heard about Tanghua, her hatred for Tanghua deepened. One day, Tanghua's parents did not come after school. It was the driver who came to pick her up. She had just walked out of the school gate when she saw Wu Lingling and a few hooligans hanging out with a group of hooligans. When Wu Lingling saw her, she glared at her fiercely and turned her head away. As for those delinquent girls, they all stood beside one of the delinquents. When Tanghua got into the car, they all walked together in a certain direction. As they gradually left the school, the hooligans placed their hands on the waists of the delinquent girls. The delinquent girls did not struggle. It was Wu Lingling who introduced the delinquent girls around her to the group of hooligans. Yes. These junior high school girls were rebellious to begin with, and there were also cases of puppy love. Those hooligans would say a few words, buy them some food, take them out to play, and don't care about anything else, just hang out with them. The system said. Keep an eye on Wu Lingling. If she tries to touch a good student, let me know. Tanghua supported her chin with one hand. She's just a delinquent. Don't bother about her.
Understood, Madam Host. 2 days later, when Tanghua was chatting with Mrs. Tang, she heard that Qin Rulan was complaining to Mrs. Tang that Wu Lingling was even more disobedient recently. She often did not come home and said that she was spending the night at her classmate's house. She lowered her head and laughed. Qin Rulan was still complaining about Wu Lingling's disobedience. Did she not worry that Wu Lingling was really staying at her classmate's house when she did not come home at night? Your youngest aunt is silly, Mrs. Tang said. If she wanted to leave your youngest uncle and live alone with Lingling, she would definitely have a better life than now. Mom, this is her own choice. She won't listen to you even if you try to persuade her. I know. Mrs. Tang sighed. All right, let's not talk about this. As long as our Xiaoguo is fine, everything is fine. Wu Lingling had hurt her feelings, so she did not want to do something that was difficult and unrewarding. Fuping Chinese Pinnacle.
Chapter 1395. Those hooligans were not satisfied with little delinquents at all. Little delinquents were not as fun as good students, especially the leader of the hooligans. He knew that Wu Lingling was being controlled by his subordinates and even dragged her own little sister into it. His restless thoughts couldn't be stopped no matter what. He asked his subordinates to find Wu Lingling and threaten her to bring good students out to play. It would be best if their parents were very busy and did not pay much attention to their lives and studies. Usually, such students were more obedient and did not dare to tell their parents if anything happened. Firstly, they were not close to their parents and were too shy to speak. Secondly, they were afraid of embarrassing themselves. Once their parents came to the school and made a fuss, many people would know about it. At that time, they would be the ones embarrassed. Little girls could not bear the consequences of such a thing. Wu Lingling agreed readily without any hesitation. Ever since she had dragged her friends down with her, she had a feeling that after all that had happened to her, those good students in school were still studying well and looking good. Her idea was to drag those good students down with her. Especially those few students in her class whom she disliked. Brother Knife, don't worry. I will make you satisfied. Wu Lingling smiled and said to Brother Knife. Brother Knife was one of the more trusted subordinates of the hooligan boss. It was also the same one who held a knife to her neck. In the end, because she did not manage to get through to Tangua, Brother Knife listened to the hooligan boss and threw her to the hooligans. Of course, she hated this man in her heart. But the person she hated the most was Tangua. She was the model student who had a clean smile and seemed to be shining wherever she went. She was envied by countless people. Why? Why was Tangua able to look so good from a young age and even have a chauffeur to fetch her to and from school? If she had lived in such a family since young, she would not have been taken away by Brother Knife, and she would not have encountered everything that happened later. She would not have been threatened by them and fallen into the abyss. Her first target was the class monitor of her class, who was also the top student in school. That girl was clean and the boys said that she was beautiful when she smiled. The teachers liked each other, and so did the students. She hated this girl because every time she skipped class, the other party would remember it clearly. If it wasn't for the fact that she remembered the place so clearly, she wouldn't have been criticized by the whole school every week because she skipped class too many times. On the second day after promising Brother Dao, Wu Lingling had been paying attention to that girl after school. The other party happened to be on duty today. By the time everything was done, most of the people in the school had left. As soon as the girl walked out of the school gate, she was caught by Wu Lingling and the other delinquents and dragged into the alley. The girl was just about to shout, "Wu Lingling, what are you doing?" when they covered her mouth forcefully. "Host, Miao Ruru has been dragged to an alley." The system hurriedly reported to Tangua. Wu Lingling's activities in school had always been monitored by the system. Today, Wu Lingling and the others were in the washroom discussing how to drag Miao Ruru away and hand her over to the hooligans. Tangua made a decision. After school, she called the chauffeur and told him to wait for a while. She wanted to finish her homework before going back. Then, she took out a set of leather clothes and pants from the system storage, as well as a black mask. As long as she tied her hair up, she would transform into a good student, Tangua. I want to chat with more like-minded people about transmigration, female supporting character, calm down. Chat about life, find a confidant peak. Chapter 1396. Tangua quickly went out of the classroom. According to the location specified by the system, she walked to a wall of the school. She climbed up the wall as if she was as light as a feather, and nimbly climbed over the wall. A female cat burglar. Xiao Gu was holding a pair of binoculars and saw a skinny figure in a black leather jacket and pants jumping over the wall. When he wanted to take another look, the figure had already jumped over the wall. He held the binoculars and felt a little regretful that he did not see it clearly just now. He did not expect the school to be so interesting. There were strange girls and a female cat burglar in the afternoon. It was much more interesting for him to be the school doctor than to be in the hospital. He wondered what other interesting things would happen in the next few days. Xiao Gu thought about it silently. His mind was filled with that fair and clean girl. He quickly shook his head. What kind of nonsense was he thinking? Miao Ruru thought that Wu Lingling only wanted to snatch her money or teach her a lesson at most. After all, she remembered clearly how Wu Lingling skipped classes and left early every time. She was the class monitor. It was her duty to record such things. It was impossible for her not to remember. She would definitely offend some students who liked to skip classes. She was not surprised that Wu Lingling hated her. She really did not expect that Wu Lingling and a few delinquents would drag her to an alley. There were a few hooligans waiting in the alley. She could tell at a glance that these hooligans were different from the other hooligans. Most of these hooligans were above 20 years old. They were not students. She felt that something was wrong and wanted to run away. However, she was held down by a few girls and her mouth was gagged. She could only stare and ask Wu Lingling what she wanted to do. Brother Knife really did not expect Wu Lingling to be so heartless. She actually brought a pretty girl here. Boss will definitely like her face. They were not afraid of what would happen. In fact, as long as her family background was not good and her parents were busy, this kind of obedient girl was the easiest to deal with. They just needed to take some photos and threaten her a little to ensure that she would not dare to say anything. Their boss liked this kind of fresh and tender girl the most. Miao Ruru heard their words and her face was filled with despair. Moreover, they even had a van parked at the entrance of the alley. At this time, no one was passing by. Even if she passed by, who would dare to meddle in the affairs of these hooligans? Wu Lingling and the other delinquents even surrounded her in the middle. No one would be able to tell. Tears flowed out of Miao Ruru's eyes. She regretted not running away when she saw Wu Lingling. Bring her into the car. Let's go quickly so that we don't get into trouble. Brother Knife instructed as Wu Lingling and the other girls escorted Miao Ruru into the car. At this moment, Tang Guo jumped over the school wall. He ran up to Brother Knife and gave him a kick in the face, causing him to wail in pain. Before Wu Lingling and the others could react, she took a few steps forward and backhanded a few slaps on the faces of Wu Lingling and the others. Among them, she hit Wu Lingling the hardest. Her face immediately swelled up. Wu Lingling's eyes were filled with tears. She covered her face. She didn't know that this girl in black leather jacket and pants with a mask would suddenly appear and hit her. Who are you? Tang Guo pulled Miao Ruru behind her and said, they're the ones who beat you up. Fupin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1397. Miao Ruru hid behind Tang Guo, trembling and unable to say a word. She did not dare to imagine what would happen if she was really brought into that car. She looked at Wu Lingling, whose face was swollen from the slap, and her eyes were filled with hatred. Wu Lingling, this is not over. Wu Lingling's heart skipped a beat. She panicked and tugged at Brother Knife. Brother Knife, what should we do? This was her first time doing something like this. She did not expect that someone would come out and ruin things. Brother Knife's face hardened. Catch that girl. He was also furious that he was kicked in front of everyone. Furthermore, it was in front of Wu Lingling, a delinquent girl. He could not hold back his pride. He might as well catch such a nosy and weirdly dressed girl and teach her a lesson. After following his boss for so many years, he had never been afraid of anything. He had seen many situations where a white knife entered and a red knife appeared. Why should he be afraid of a little girl? Let's run. Miao Ruru was very grateful. She thought that Tang Guo might be a cosplay enthusiast who happened to pass by and saved her. There were so many people now. If she was not afraid, she would definitely be in trouble. She held on to Tangua's hand tightly and looked around, calculating which direction to run from. She did not think that the two girls would be able to beat those hooligans. As for how Wu Lingling treated her, it was better to get out of here first. I will bring you out later. Don't be afraid. Miao Ruru did not believe her. But then, she saw those hooligans rushing up and being beaten up by Tangua. She swallowed her saliva. She was not a cosplayer but a martial arts enthusiast, right? She was lucky to have met her. While those people were distracted, she took out her phone from her bag and called the police. No matter what, it was Wu Lingling who dragged her to this place and handed her over to the hooligans. If she did not call the police today, she did not know if Wu Lingling would do anything to others. After Miao Ruru called the police while trembling, she saw Tangua beating up all the hooligans. Wu Lingling and the other girls were also slapped a few times by Tangua. Hold your head and lean against the wall. Wu Lingling and the other delinquents were scared after being beaten up. When they saw those delinquents lying on the ground and wailing, they didn't dare to resist at all. They obediently hugged their heads and leaned against the wall. I've already called the police, Miao Ruru said. Thank you. She glanced at Tangua's mask. Tangua had no intention of taking it off. Tangua used a voice changer when she spoke. There were plenty of such things in the system space. She gave people the impression that she was an obedient girl. Who would have thought that she had such a side to her? Yes. Tangua replied coldly. She did not intend to leave immediately. There are surveillance cameras on the streets outside the school. When the police come later, you can remind them to collect evidence. I understand. After Miao Ruru answered, she suddenly had a question. When the police arrived later, wouldn't Tangua be there too? Soon, she had an answer. When the police car arrived at the entrance of the alley, the girl standing beside her jumped over the wall and entered the alley. She disappeared in the blink of an eye. Miao Ruru couldn't even call out to her. When the police arrived in front of her, Tangua had already disappeared. Wu Lingling and the other delinquents, Brother Dao and the other hooligans, and Miao Ruru were all taken to the police station. Miao Ruru told the truth. Midway, a cosplayer who knew martial arts jumped over the wall and helped her. The Peak. Chapter 1398. When the police heard this, they felt that no matter what the girl was doing, they had to take her statement. Therefore, when they found out that Tangua had climbed into the school, they were certain that the girl was from this school. So, they went into the school to look for her. When the police entered the school, Tangua had already changed into her school uniform and was carrying her backpack. She had a clean smile on her face as she walked past them. Student, are you having a cosplay activity here? One of the police officers stopped Tangua. Excuse me, have you seen a girl wearing a black leather jacket and pants with a mask? We want to ask her about the situation. I don't know. I've been doing my homework in the classroom. Sorry, I can't help you. Tangua smiled shyly. Her eyes were unbelievably clean as she replied sweetly. Oh, then we'll ask someone else. The police officer was a little disappointed. Seeing that it was late, he kindly reminded her, Student, next time you do your homework at home. It's not safe to go home too late. Okay, thank you for the reminder. My driver is waiting outside. Please don't worry, there won't be any safety issues. The two of them said goodbye. The police officers had no idea that the person they were looking for had just walked past them. They searched around the school but couldn't find anything, so they had to leave. As soon as she got home, Tangua received a call from Mother Tang. Lingling got into trouble and is still at the police station. Your aunt is already there. I heard that it has something to do with the gangsters outside. Mother Tang was very glad that she had found out about this earlier and made Tanggua stay away from Wu Lingling. Mom, what's the details? Tanggua asked with a smile. Mother Tang said that she had also just received a call from Qin Rulan. She only said that Wu Lingling was at the police station and that it was a serious matter. She didn't know anything else. Okay, Xiaogua, you're done with your homework. Rest early. Although Mother Tang was still out of town and wouldn't go to the police station personally, Qin Rulan would inform her immediately if there was any news. Tanggua waited for the results the next day. The next day, when she arrived at the classroom, she heard her classmates whispering. What are you guys talking about? Tanggua, don't you know? Wu Lingling has caused trouble, big trouble. I'm afraid she will be fired this time. Tanggua did not expect it to be so serious. However, everyone seemed to know about this matter. It was obvious that Miao Ruru's family had spread the news. Moreover, every class now had a group. Miao Ruru's parents definitely valued her. Now that the internet was so developed and Wu Lingling was underage, even if she was punished, it wouldn't be too serious. However, her parents probably didn't want such a person to continue studying in this school. Do you know what Wu Lingling did yesterday afternoon? She and her delinquent friends actually dragged their class monitor into the delinquent's van. If it wasn't for the appearance of a martial arts actor who helped her, I don't know what would have happened. This Wu Lingling is really too hateful. Tanggua, you're still cousins. You have to stay away from her in the future. I don't know if she's going to hit on you. Don't worry. I don't have much contact with her anymore. In just half a day, the junior and senior sections were discussing this matter. At the peak. Chapter 1399. Everyone knew that Wu Lingling had the intention to harm others at such a young age. With Miao Ruru's reminder, they were able to get the CCTV evidence outside the school. Wu Lingling and her friends had purposely taken Miao Ruru away and handed her over to the hooligans, almost causing a huge mistake. The evidence was irrefutable and there was no way to deny it. Brother Knife did not expect this. Wasn't it just picking up a female student? How could such a big deal have happened? Although they would only be detained for a while this time, he was still very angry. Wu Lingling and the other hooligans were expelled from the school. No school would be able to tolerate such vile behavior. If they did not express their stance, would the parents still trust their school in the future? Because Wu Lingling was still underage, even if this incident was on the news, it would still be reported. Qin Rulan was dumbfounded and went to Mother Tang in tears. Tanggua was watching TV and listening to Qin Rulan cry for a long time. Sister, you can't just ignore this matter. Can you talk to the school? I will take care of Lingling. It's already the second semester of the third year of junior high school. She should at least take the middle school exams. Now that this incident has happened, which school in the city would dare to accept Lingling? Why is this girl so disappointing? She only knows how to cause trouble. Why doesn't she learn from Xiaogua? Qin Rulan looked at the obedient Tanggua beside her. Xiaogua, you should take care of Lingling and talk to her properly. Maybe this wouldn't have happened. Lingling is still a child. How would she know about this? Mother Tang was very sympathetic at first, but when she heard Qin Rulan's words, she felt uncomfortable. How can you blame Xiaogua for this? Mother Tang frowned unhappily. Xiaogua is focused on his studies. He is not Lingling's nanny. How can he take care of her 24 hours a day? Besides, Xiaogua is only 1 year older than Lingling. Rulan, you know how Lingling treats Xiaogua. Will she listen to Xiaogua? If you ask me, you guys are too negligent as adults. I've already reminded you to take care of Lingling. Now that something has happened, if it's not the responsibility of a parent, then whose responsibility is it? Mrs. Tang was very unhappy. I should be thankful that Lingling didn't target Xiaoguo. Rulan, I don't like what you're saying. Qin Rulan stammered, not knowing what to say. She had no confidence in front of Mrs. Tang. Xiaoguo was rendered speechless by Mother Tang. She thought for a moment and said, Sis, that's not what I meant. What I meant was that if Xiaoguo spends more time with Lingling, maybe Lingling will learn from him. Mother Tang was so angry that she laughed. If your Lingling leads my Xiaoguo astray, who's going to take responsibility? Rulan, Lingling made such a mistake today because you and Wu Jun didn't guide her well and didn't spend your energy on teaching her. If he didn't care when he was young, he wouldn't be able to control him when he grew up. Don't push the blame to Xiaoguo. Xiaoguo is only a 16-year-old girl. You should reflect on yourself. As for whether the school will expel her, that's not up to me. Even if I'm classmates with the principal, this is not up for discussion. Your Lingling went overboard. How could she treat her classmates like that? No school dares to keep her. Then what should we do, sis? Qin Rulan had always thought that Wu Lingling was smart and would definitely be successful in the future. Let's change her school. The Peak. Chapter 1400. Just when Qin Rulan was at her wit's end, Lu Jing, who had disappeared for a long time, appeared. Lu Jing also knew that Wu Lingling had been expelled from the school a few days ago. Lu Jing was not from this school, so he did not know the details of the incident. Lu Jing preferred Wu Lingling, and Wu Lingling naturally preferred Lu Jing. Lu Jing did not know that Wu Lingling was with those hooligans, and Wu Lingling hid it from him. Lu Jing's family background was not bad, but he had more siblings and his father had a lover. Currently, he was not valued. There was no news about him previously because something happened to his mother, so he did not come here. Moreover, he did not come here often and had even less time to attend classes. Brother Knife and the rest would be detained for a few days. When Wu Lingling saw Lu Jing, she asked him where he had been. Lu Jing said that his mother was sick and wanted to go back. His home was not in this city. Why did the school expel you? It's because those good students don't like me, so they expelled me, thinking that I affected their studies. Wu Lingling was very angry. Lu Jing, you don't know how happy they were when they heard that I was expelled. The current Lu Jing was just like Wu Lingling. They were both extremely extreme. They felt that the world had let them down, and everyone who lived better than them was guilty. Actually, Lu Jing's mother was only one of his father's many lovers. But he felt that his father had let his mother down, so he hated everyone in the Lu family. Even when his father wanted to nurture him, he did not listen. Because his mother had indeed helped his father. Many years ago, she had taken a knife for him. So, in his father's heart, his mother was very important. Also, his position in the Lu family was very special. Similarly, he was also the target of many siblings. But because he did not seem to care about those things, no one targeted him for now. What do you plan to do now? I don't know. My mother is still looking for a school for me. There are many schools in this city that are not willing to accept me. They are all the same. They think that my existence will affect their studies. Lu Jing had just returned, so how would he know the situation here? Why don't I help you? Can you? With Lu Jing's help, Wu Lingling entered a private junior high school. Host, what should we do now? Lu Jing still did not know about those things. If he knew, it was unknown if he would help Wu Lingling. Study hard. System, he believes in evil. Wu Lingling's entering that junior high school didn't change anything. She and Lu Jing got closer and closer. Finally, one day, the two of them had a relationship. Wu Lingling was afraid that Lu Jing would find out, so she even faked it so that Lu Jing would believe that he was Wu Lingling's first man. At this moment, Wu Lingling really wanted to get rid of Brother Dao and those hoodlums. But the other party had her photo, so she didn't know what to do. Brother Dao and the others also came out of the detention center. Soon, he found Wu Lingling's head. Tang Guo did not care about Wu Lingling for the time being. If this situation continued, the chances of Lu Jing and Wu Lingling getting better were very slim. She was more interested in the school doctor now. In the afternoon, she sat in front of Xiao Gu. When Xiao Gu saw her, she subconsciously looked away. He didn't know why, but he had been thinking about this girl recently. Big brother. Are you feeling unwell? The corner of Xiao Ji's mouth twitched. This voice was so damn sweet. Fukbin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1401. Although Xiao Gu found it strange that her mind had been filled with the shadow of this little sister recently, she couldn't control herself. But she must be feeling unwell to come to him. Otherwise, under normal circumstances, who would come to his place? Weren't people coming to his place to seek treatment for injuries or discomfort? My stomach doesn't feel well, Tang Guo said softly, causing Xiao Ji's expression to turn serious. System. Host's stomach hurts. When did this happen? Why didn't she ask him for some medicine? In the system space, there were all kinds of painkillers that guaranteed immediate relief. It was much faster than looking for a school doctor. Then I'll help you check. Xiao Gu said subconsciously. Tang Guo's lips curled up slightly, but it was only for a moment. Xiao Gu didn't even notice it. Then, she forced a smile. Big brother, how do you want me to check? How do you want me to check? These words scared Xiao Gu so much that he almost dropped his stethoscope on the floor. This little girl's sweet voice was really too pleasant to listen to. How could it be so sweet? It was so sweet that he wanted to hug her and kiss her. Xiao Gu reacted quickly. He was frightened by the scary thought that suddenly appeared in his mind. If he wasn't the only school doctor in the school, he would have run away. I'll help you take your pulse. Xiao Gu put the stethoscope aside and sat on the stool. He straightened his back and said with a serious expression, I know some Chinese medicine too. Let me check what's wrong with you first. Actually, his mind was already trying to determine why this little girl's stomach hurt. Did she eat something bad? Or was it her period? For the first time, he couldn't ask the question. In the past, there was a girl who ate something cold and came to him for a checkup. He asked a lot of questions and found out that she ate a popsicle. He even scolded her harshly. Why, when this little girl looked at him with a pair of clean eyes, he couldn't ask the question. Could it be that after leaving the big hospital and coming to the school's small clinic, he really became unprofessional? But this wasn't a problem for him. Even if the patient didn't ask, wouldn't it be clear by taking her pulse? He still believed in his medical skills. Tang Guo placed her hand on his, and Xiao Ji's fingers landed on her wrist. His expression was solemn as he removed all thoughts from his mind. In response, Tang Guo raised her eyebrows, pursed her lips and smiled. She said to the system, looks quite professional. That's right, host. Although this guy is often infatuated with you and his image collapses, he has never dropped the ball when it comes to serious matters. By the way, Madam Host, where are you feeling unwell? Does your stomach really hurt? Do you want me to find you some painkillers? You must tell me when you feel uncomfortable. I'm always here. The system said nervously. Tang Guo, my stomach is a little uncomfortable. It's my period. I see. In the system space, there are also many medicines for menstrual periods. Just take 2 of them and you'll be fine. These are all obtained in the high-tech world, which is much more advanced than here. Dear host, don't disregard your own health. Tanghua. Her little Tongzi was really stupid sometimes. Isn't there a school doctor here? I heard that his medical skills are good, so I came to see him. Tanghua pursed her lips as she said this. Finally, the system's voice stopped abruptly. Sorry for disturbing. He didn't understand the situation properly. His IQ was dragging him down. Fupin Chinese Pinnacle. Chapter 1402. It's your period, right? Xiao Gu let go of Tanghua's slender and fair wrist and said with a serious expression, Does your stomach hurt like this every time you have your period? Yes. Tanghua wasn't lying. In her memory, this body really did experience pain every time she had her period. Fortunately, her family was well-to-do and she had good living habits, so the symptoms weren't too serious. But every time she had her period, she would still feel very weak, accompanied by slight pain. These 2 days, she wouldn't have much energy, and her face wouldn't look too good either. If she didn't replenish her nutrition in time, she would even feel dizzy. Then I'll make you a cup of brown sugar water first. Xiao Gu looked at the young lady's pale face, and for some reason, he felt a little heartache. It must be because the young lady was too obedient and had to be tortured by something like her period. He sympathized with her. Yes, it must be. There was no other reason. He definitely had brown sugar here. Young ladies these days didn't pay much attention to their health. There were also many who ate cold food during their periods. Basically, he would give them a harsh scolding whenever he saw them. While he was making the brown sugar water, he casually asked Tanghua, You didn't eat cold food these 2 days, right? No. Xiao Gu nodded. Don't touch cold water either. Okay. He cooled the brown sugar water for a while until it was warm enough to drink. Then, he passed it to Tanghua. Drink some first. It can alleviate some of your symptoms. Your situation is still considered good. I'll prescribe some medicine for you, and... Xiao Gu hurriedly stopped himself. He almost blurted out that the symptoms would be much better if she massaged her lower abdomen. No matter what, big brother. Big brother? Tanghua asked seriously. Xiao Gu looked at her studious face and almost went berserk. Massage. He couldn't possibly massage her. She was still a young lady, and he was only a few years older than her. If word got out, it would affect her reputation and her studies. And didn't she say last time that she shouldn't get too close to him because it would affect her reputation and her studies? Hence, Xiao Gu turned around and took out a booklet. She placed it in front of Tanghua and said seriously, There's a massage technique here. Take it home and read it. When you go home at night, massage according to the instructions. Every time you have your period, massage it and the symptoms will slowly ease. Then, I'll prescribe you some medicine. It shouldn't be so serious next time. System, host, I'm a person with principles. You're still a young lady. Even if your heart is a little different, you still have your own principles. Host, your big cutie is really cute. There aren't many boys nowadays who are so principled and respect girls. I think that if you grow up for another 2 years, he won't be so concerned. Tanghua, I never thought that I would be despised by the system one day. Okay, big brother, you're such a nice person. Of course, Tanghua had no intention of making things difficult for Xiao Gu. She was just a little interested in this guy and suddenly thought of him, so she came over to take a look. Xiao Gu heaved a sigh of relief. If you feel any discomfort, come and find me. I guarantee that you'll be cured. Okay. In the end, Tanghua finished drinking the brown sugar water. She returned to the classroom with the belly massage booklet and some medicine that Xiao Gu had given her. She was all smiles the whole day. Her classmates didn't understand why Tang Guo was so happy, but they were happy as well. Fupin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1403. Tang Guo was happy, but Xiao Gu couldn't bring himself to be happy. His mind had always been filled with Tang Guo's image. That girl with a sweet smile and a clean face. If this continued, he would think that he was a pervert. Today, when she came to see a doctor, he couldn't help but let his imagination run wild. Did her symptoms get better after taking the medicine? The weather was quite hot. Would she secretly eat something cold? She looked so weak. Would it affect her studies? All sorts of thoughts ran through his mind, almost driving Xiao Gu crazy. Being a school doctor wasn't easy at all. His mind was especially hard. He met a girl who couldn't think straight. That smile was so damn beautiful. Her voice was so damn sweet. He couldn't forget it no matter what. Xiao Gu rubbed his hair. He was on the verge of breaking down. She was still a high school girl, only 16 years old. Xiao Gu, what are you thinking? Even if you want to, you have to wait for her to grow up for another 2 years. Xiao Gu paused. Another 2 years. 16 plus 2 equaled 18, which meant that she had reached adulthood, right? The moment this thought appeared, it ran wild in Xiao Ji's mind. He couldn't stop thinking about it. After school, Tang Guo was still the same. She liked to finish all her homework before going home. The students in the classroom had all left. They knew Tang Guo's habits and knew that she had a chauffeur. They weren't afraid that she would be in danger and left after saying goodbye to her. About 5 minutes later, Xiao Gu, who had been thinking about waiting for her to grow up for another 2 years, appeared at the door of the classroom. "Host, your future one is here," the system kindly reminded her. It knew that no matter how principled that fellow was, once he met the great host, he would definitely be distracted. It really didn't know what kind of restriction the other party had placed on him. Tang Guo raised her head and saw Xiao Gu standing at the entrance of the classroom. She smiled at him. "Big brother, what's the matter? Are you feeling better?" Xiao Gu didn't enter the classroom. He just stood at the door. People nowadays like to spread rumors. If he really entered the classroom and others saw that there were only the two of them in the classroom, who knew what kind of rumors would spread? If she was a mischievous student who didn't like to study, everyone would be used to it and wouldn't pay attention to such things. However, she was a good student. She was the pride and honor of the school. In everyone's eyes, she had a positive image. If there was anything wrong with her, even if it was just cursing or throwing a tantrum, people would talk about her and think that she was a good student with a bad character. If she got too close to him, there would probably be rumors that even a good student was in love at a young age. Because she was outstanding enough, there was no lack of teachers. The school wanted to talk to her, and it had a great impact on her. Therefore, it was better to wait for her to grow for another 2 years. Xiao Gu secretly decided that even if he was interested in this obedient little sister, he couldn't show it. Otherwise, there would be many voices attacking her from all directions. In this world, there were many people who liked to trample on beauty. "I'm much better now," Tang Guo replied. "I brought you a cup of brown sugar water." When Xiao Gu said this, she was still a little embarrassed. Looking at her clean smile and clear eyes, he coughed lightly and said, "As a doctor, I definitely have to pay attention to the follow-up of my patients." Vertex. Chapter 1404. Thank you. Tang Guo walked to the door of the classroom and took the brown sugar water. "Big brother, you're such a good doctor." "Then I'm leaving." Xiao Gu reminded her again, "Remember, don't eat anything cold or spicy, and don't touch cold water, understand?" Understood. Xiao Gu really left. He was afraid that if he didn't leave now, he wouldn't be able to control himself and would go to the classroom to talk to her and hold her hand. So, when would his little sister, who had accidentally entered his brain, grow up? Xiao Gu was a little worried and returned to the infirmary with a sad face. Tang Guo returned to her seat and continued to do her homework after finishing the brown sugar water. Seeing how happy she was, the system didn't ask her if she wanted the limited edition menstrual medicine in the system space. Big Brother Qiao Ji's brown sugar water was much more effective than these medicines. Look at how happy the host was. The next day, Tang Guo went to the infirmary to look for Xiao Gu at noon. When she entered the infirmary, Xiao Gu passed her a cup of brown sugar water. After asking her how she was today, she said that she was fine. After sitting for a while, she left. Xiao Gu looked at her back view and felt a little lost. He was still thinking about when this obedient little sister would grow up. In the afternoon, Tang Guo sat in the classroom to do her homework. Seeing that most people had left, Xiao Gu took a thermos and wandered around the school building. In the end, he wandered to Tang Guo's class and gave her the brown sugar water in the thermos before leaving. System, damn it, this dog food, is there an end to it? Looking at how happy the host was, he endured it. The system also didn't miss any news about Wu Lingling. Once there was any new news, it would immediately report it to Tang Guo. Because of Miao Rura's incident, Wu Lingling was expelled and didn't dare to do it again. However, because the junior high school that Wu Lingling was studying in was a private school, there were still many students with good grades. Because of Lu Jing's request, the school accepted Wu Lingling, but also arranged for her to be in a class that relied on connections. This class was basically the kind that the school had given up on. It was a poor class. Wu Lingling didn't care about these things. Not long after, she got along well with the girls in her class. After Brother Knife came out, he did not give up on Wu Lingling. They would use the photos to threaten her. If she dared to run away from them, they would give the photos to Lu Jing. Wu Lingling really liked Lu Jing, especially after she found out that Lu Jing actually came from a good background. She had tasted the benefits of Lu Jing's connections and was able to enroll in this junior high school. Hence, she didn't want to give up on Lu Jing. But she didn't want to get involved with Brother Knife and the others. She didn't want to hang out with them. These hooligans were not as good-looking as Lu Jing. In that aspect, they were not as good as Lu Jing either. In fact, these gangsters were not interested in Wu Lingling, who had not grown up yet and was dressed in strange clothes. When they found out that she had transferred to a private junior high school, they told Wu Lingling that as long as she could bring her classmates out to play, they would not look for her or give her photos to Lu Jing. Because of what happened last time, they hoped that these young students would be willing. Wu Lingling agreed. The girls in her class were all hooligans. After they got along well with her, she really brought them out to meet Brother Knife. The hooligans knew how to coax and even had the money to buy small gifts for the girls. These girls were all willing to hang out with them. Fupin Chinese Vertex. Chapter 1405. When Tang Guo heard this from the system, she was not moved. She was surprised that Wu Lingling had fallen so quickly. While Wu Lingling was entangled with Brother Knife and the other hooligans by bringing their classmates out to play, she was also having a good time with Lu Jing. The boy and girl who had tasted the forbidden fruit for the first time only had love in their eyes. How would they know what they should and should not do now? When both of them were rebellious, if there was a different twist in their lives, then their paths in the future would be different. Wu Lingling did not know that the hooligan boss above Brother Knife was actually one of Lu Jing's brothers. He was looking for trouble with Lu Jing just to give him a blow. If Tang Guo had picked up that call, she would have been the one to suffer. If Wu Lingling did not encounter so many things, their lives would have changed when they met Lu Jing. After Lu Jing came back, Wu Lingling stayed by his side and cried for a few days. She said that she was almost bullied by the hooligan boss above Brother Knife. Of course, she hid the fact that Tang Guo was kidnapped by the hooligans. When Lu Jing went back to visit his mother, he felt that he could not continue like this. When he heard that the person he liked was almost bullied by his rival, he was furious. At the same time, he realized that if he continued like this, not only would he let down his mother, but he would also not be able to protect the person he liked. Then, Lu Jing learned to make use of his father's relationship with his mother and slowly changed for the better. When Wu Lingling saw that Lu Jing was changing for the better, she did not want to fall behind because she liked Lu Jing and started to change. Lu Jing hired a home tutor. Wu Lingling said that she wanted to improve with him, so she would follow him for tutoring every day. So, it was the tragedy of the original owner that made the two of them successful. Tang Guo said in a low voice. Now, everything has changed. I'm just watching them dance with folded arms. The two little boys and girls who tasted the forbidden fruit for the first time are now immersed in it and can't extricate themselves. How can they think of other things? Wu Lingling could not turn back. With Wu Lingling leading the way, Lu Jing could not turn back either. It was impossible for Lu Jing to inherit the Lu family in this life. Besides, the young master of the Lu family behind Brother Knife must have known about this, right? How could the other party not be able to grasp such a huge weakness? She was not interested in the matters of the Lu family. However, if the other party could prevent Lu Jing from making a comeback, she would be very happy. As for Brother Dao and the others, there was no need to be in a hurry. He would squeeze them dry first, and none of them would be able to escape. Tongzi, find evidence of the crimes of those who have a grudge against me. The system shuddered. Hearing Dun's words, it quickly agreed. Then let's just sit and wait. Wu Lingling will push herself into the abyss step by step. Tang Guo felt a little regretful. It's a pity that she wasn't reborn. If she was, that would be great. The system. Of course it would be great. If Wu Lingling was reborn, it would feel really good to torture her. It was time for the final exam. Tang Guo wasn't surprised. She was the top student in the cohort, so she didn't get many points deducted. At most, she would only get 1 or 2 points. Actually, these deductions were all due to the teacher's friendship. They couldn't really give full marks, right? Although they really wanted to. Father Tang and Mother Tang were very satisfied with this satisfactory answer. Wu Lingling's results were not good to begin with. Ever since she was transferred to the junior high school that was even further away from home, her results were naturally worse. Not only did she fail all the exams, but she actually scored only 19 points in one of them. Qin Rulan was furious. Fupin Chinese the Apex. Chapter 1406. At the family gathering, Qin Rulan did not mention Wu Lingling much. Tang Guo was still the most eye-catching among her peers. She was surrounded by all her peers. It was a family gathering, but these people were actually holding exam papers and asking her questions. After Tang Guo's birthday, they had set up a group in private. If they had any difficult questions, they would send them to the group. When Tang Guo was free, she would help them solve the questions. The steps were detailed and easy to understand, so their results improved a lot. Because of Tang Guo's words, they were now learning what they were good at. Their families were very supportive. Perhaps it was because they could learn what they liked, so they improved in other subjects. These relatives liked Tang Guo very much and were very grateful to her. If she had not reminded them, they would not have known that their children were so talented in certain aspects. Tang Guo's cousin was already participating in mathematical Olympiad practice. Her cousin who was good at drawing was also learning how to draw. As for the others who were good in other aspects, the family did not hesitate to spend money to groom them as long as they liked. Most importantly, their results were not bad now. They were above average. Moreover, they had their own areas of expertise, so their future was much brighter than before. Qin Rulan looked at the group of children surrounding Tanggua, chatting and laughing. She also heard that their results had improved a lot. She glanced at Wu Lingling, who was sitting at the side with a look of disdain. She walked over and tugged at Wu Lingling, whispering, "Why don't you go and play with your cousin Xiaogua? Look, everyone is having fun. You're the only one sitting here eating melon seeds. What's wrong with you? You don't fit in. Mom, don't bother about me. It's the new year. I'm not interested in discussing studies instead of eating melon seeds." At the mention of Tanggua, Wu Lingling's heart was filled with hatred. If not for Tanggua, would she be in such a miserable state now? Would she be threatened by Brother Knife with photos and tremble with fear when she was with Lu Jing? It was all Tanggua's fault. If she had not lost her phone, all those things would not have happened to her. If all those things had not happened, she would not have been fired. Play with her. She didn't want that. In fact, she even hoped that one day, Tanggua would also fall into Brother Dao's hands. At that time, let's see how the other party will show off. Wasn't it just good grades? It was going to be endless. Qin Rulan was afraid of angering Wu Lingling, so she didn't say anything more. Listening to others discussing the improvement of her child's grades, she felt very uncomfortable. These relatives were all smart people. Wu Lingling's incident had caused quite a stir. Therefore, they would only discuss the child's progress among themselves and would not ask Qin Rulan and Wu Lingling's results in public. Wu Lingling had never learned anything good since she was young. How could she forcefully bring a good student to play with hooligans? Their worldview had really been refreshed. They would never let their children play with Wu Lingling. This kind of child who had been full of malice since he was young, now that he was almost 16 years old, he probably wouldn't be able to change. They didn't ask Qin Rulan how Wu Lingling was doing, nor did they ask about Wu Lingling's grades. They chose to ignore her directly. In fact, they were still a little afraid. They were afraid that Wu Lingling would have vicious thoughts at such a young age. If they really provoked her, would she collude with the hooligans to harm their children? Therefore, it was better to forget about showing off to Wu Lingling or showing concern for her grades. She probably wouldn't think that they were showing concern, but ridiculing and looking down on her. She might even bear a grudge against them. It was a strenuous and thankless task. No one came to ask Wu Lingling and she heaved a sigh of relief. But when she heard the sound of a debate over a question, she felt very uncomfortable. She could only feel better by continuously eating melon seeds. Host, she is very uncomfortable. That's right. Peek. Chapter 1407. After the family reunion, Tanggua's siblings were discussing where they should go to have fun. Wu Lingling felt uncomfortable when she saw the group of people laughing and joking around. Other than the day of the reunion, Wu Lingling did not appear in front of Tanggua during the Chinese New Year. According to the system, she had been hanging out with her friends for the past few days. Lu Jing was called home and the group of hooligans who had nothing to do found Wu Lingling and the other delinquents and asked them to go to the bar. This was what Wu Lingling was most comfortable with. She felt uncomfortable with the group of obedient students. It was more relaxing to hang out with these people. As for what the hooligans wanted to do with her, they had already done what they should do. Even if she was unwilling, they had her photo. How could she refuse? Once, twice, thrice, and 4 times, Wu Lingling was already used to fooling around with the hooligans. Gradually, words like ethics, self-respect, and self-respect disappeared from Wu Lingling's dictionary. These words slowly became having fun. How could the people around her know that she was having fun? The people in her family did not understand her at all. She felt that this was youth. Wu Lingling and the other delinquents didn't care about anything at all. They just did whatever they wanted. Just like that, Wu Lingling and the hooligans had a wild holiday. After school reopened, Tanggua's school life was still very peaceful. From time to time, a school doctor would wander around her classroom when she was doing her homework in the afternoon. Every time her period came, Xiao Gu would appear at the classroom door on time. When he appeared, it was after school in the afternoon and the other students had left. There was no one in the school and Tanggua was the only one left in the classroom. He would pass Tanggua a cup of brown sugar water and ask her how she was feeling. He would remind her not to eat cold or spicy food and not to touch cold water. If she wanted to wash her hands, she could go to the infirmary. He had hot water there. Every time he finished speaking, Tanggua would thank him with a smile, and it was visible to the naked eye that his years were getting better. Then he would run away as if there was a ghost chasing after him. Host, Wu Lingling is pregnant. The system was already monitoring Wu Lingling's movements. The area he covered now was already very far. The school that the other party studied at was actually quite far away from here, but because his current level was higher, he could still monitor it. The main reason why the host asked him to keep an eye on Wu Lingling was to prevent Wu Lingling from dragging down the female students who were studying hard. In an instant, he observed where Wu Lingling was heading. What's going on? Whose is it? Tanggua asked because Wu Lingling was entangled with the gangsters and Lu Jing at the same time. Although Wu Lingling was currently living in the dormitory, she had never stayed in the dormitory. Instead, she stayed at Lu Jing's place. Seeing that she was obedient, the hooligan didn't make things difficult for her. Only when Lu Jing was not around would he call her over to play. She didn't know. The system was also a little speechless, but I helped her calculate that it wasn't Lu Jing's. Oh, what is she going to do now? She was quarreling with Lu Jing and blamed him for it. Lu Jing felt that he was in the wrong, so he did not hold it against her and allowed her to hit him. He even said that if she wanted, she could give birth to the child and he could raise it. Wu Lingling did not agree. She was afraid that it might not be Lu Jing's. Vertex. Chapter 1408. Because of her pregnancy, Wu Lingling had been kicking up a fuss with Lu Jing for a long time. Lu Jing felt guilty and allowed Wu Lingling to kick up a fuss. He did not get angry. When Wu Lingling said no, he paid for her to go to the hospital for an abortion. But Wu Lingling was not 16 years old and did not have an identity card. Neither did Lu Jing. Lu Jing was just a hooligan. His father was rich and he had a group of people who followed him for various reasons. He could not reach the hospital. So he could not find a doctor to secretly help Wu Lingling get an abortion. So she needed a guardian to take her to the hospital. My family can't know about this. Lu Jing, if my family finds out, we are both finished. Wu Lingling finally understood the importance of this matter. If someone found out that she had an abortion and the news got out, everything she had would be ruined. She would not be able to hold her head high in front of her relatives. She was a few months away from 16 years old. If her classmates found out, she would not be able to hold her head high. So she could not let others know about this. Then I will find someone to go with us. Don't worry, we will go to a hospital far away. No one will see us. It was not a problem to find someone to pretend to be Wu Lingling's guardian. Wu Lingling bit her lip and finally nodded. Tanggua saw the two of them through the system's surveillance and decided on this matter. She never felt that she had anything to do with this matter. Until one afternoon, when she was having lunch in the cafeteria, the system's voice sounded. Host, Wu Lingling sneaked into your classroom. She is rummaging through your bag. Tang Gui narrowed her eyes and stood up quickly. She could not be bothered to eat. What was this Wu Lingling trying to do? Suddenly, an idea flashed through her mind. Was Wu Lingling trying to steal her identity card to get an abortion? I have my identity card in my bag. See if she took it. Tang Guo was so angry that she laughed. Wu Lingling was too naive. How dare she provoke her? The cafeteria was about 10 minutes away from the classroom. Under the system's surveillance, Wu Lingling had already found Tang Guo's identity card in her bag. Coincidentally, at this time, the students went out for lunch. Wu Lingling saw that there was no one in the classroom, so she sneaked in and planned to leave after taking the ID card. This Wu Lingling, even when she had an abortion, she didn't even shit on her head. Host, Wu Lingling has left the classroom and is going downstairs. Yes. When Tang Guo walked to the door of the teaching building, Wu Lingling happened to come downstairs. When she saw Tang Guo, she was also stunned. Wu Lingling, who had always disliked Tang Guo, actually said when she saw her today, "Cousin Xiao Guo, didn't you go for dinner?" Wu Lingling was familiar with Tang Guo. She knew that Tang Guo would never change her schedule. That was why she was surprised that Tang Guo came back at this time. Especially now that she had secretly taken Tang Guo's ID card, she felt very guilty. She wanted to say goodbye and leave immediately. I was eating, but something suddenly happened, so I don't want to eat anymore. Oh, then cousin, you go ahead. I'll leave first. Wu Lingling walked quickly past Tang Guo. She was still a little smug, but before she could finish, she was stopped by Tang Guo. Wu Lingling's heart skipped a beat. However, she did not think that Tang Guo had found out that she had taken the ID card. She only looked unhappy and asked, "Cousin Xiao Guo, why are you stopping me?" Peek. Chapter 1409. You can go, but leave the ID card in your pocket. Tang Guo didn't talk nonsense with Wu Lingling. Most of the people passing by knew Tang Guo, an excellent student. Wu Lingling had done such a thing before, so they naturally knew Wu Lingling. Many people gathered around to watch. They knew that the two were here in person and were curious about what had happened between them. When Wu Lingling heard Tang Guo mention the ID card, her face suddenly changed. "Cousin Xiao Guo, what are you talking about? What ID card?" Tang Guo smiled and didn't give Wu Lingling a chance to quibble. Now that the ID card was in Wu Lingling's pocket, she could just grab it and show it to everyone. Therefore, before Wu Lingling could react, she walked in front of Wu Lingling and put one hand into Wu Lingling's pocket. Wu Lingling had no time to stop her. She could only watch Tang Guo snatch the ID card and was speechless for a moment. "This is my ID card, Wu Lingling." Tang Guo held up the ID card in her hand and showed it to the people around her. "Everyone, look, is this my ID card?" The name and photo on it are indeed Tang Guo's. Originally, they especially hated Wu Lingling, especially the girls. They all stood behind Tang Guo and looked at Wu Lingling with suspicion. She stole Tang Guo's ID card. What was she trying to do? Breaking the law. At this time, the big sister of Tang Guo's class came. When she saw Wu Lingling, she walked quickly to Tang Guo's side and shouted at Wu Lingling, "Wu Lingling, what are you doing here? You still have the face to come to this school? Are you going to bully Tang Guo? Didn't you learn your lesson last time?" Wu Lingling stole Tang Guo's ID card. I don't know what she's going to do. It's definitely not something good. She stole it in the classroom while everyone was eating. If it weren't for Tang Guo's alertness, she would have succeeded. We can't let her go. We must find out what she's going to do with the ID card. Wu Lingling felt regretful when she saw that things were not going well. In fact, she just wanted to annoy Tang Guo. She remembered a plot she had seen before and knew that Tang Guo always carried her ID card in her school bag. Only then did she come up with an idea. While the other party was having lunch, she secretly took her ID card and prepared to go to the hospital to get an abortion in the name of Tang Guo. She had never thought that she would be discovered by Tang Guo halfway through. Seeing that there were more and more people, she said, "I was just joking with cousin Xiao Guo. We're relatives, so I won't do anything bad." How can we believe that Wu Lingling did not do anything bad? I've already asked someone to get the teacher. We have to investigate this matter thoroughly. Then, we'll get the teacher to inform your parents and your school. Otherwise, this matter won't be over. A student from a junior high school actually came here to steal from us. Seeing that things were getting out of hand, Wu Lingling wanted to run away. Tang Guo stretched out her leg and hooked him, causing him to fall flat on his face. The leader and a few other girls went up to hold Wu Lingling down. They did nothing else but drag her to the office. "Disperse, disperse. Teacher will deal with this matter." Big Sis waved her hand and everyone dispersed. She turned around and patted Tang Guo on the shoulder. "Don't worry, we're all here. Wu Lingling won't be able to do anything bad." Tang Guo nodded and smiled in her heart. She had planned to let Qin Rulan know about this matter. She did not expect that the leader of the class would appear and consider everything. At the peak. Chapter 14:10. The person who stole the ID card was Wu Lingling, and the person whose ID card was stolen was Tang Guo. When the homeroom teacher found out about this, she immediately informed the school and Wu Lingling's private junior high school. When the private junior high school found out that Wu Lingling had caused trouble, they immediately informed her parents. Tang Guo sat in the office and waited. Seeing that she couldn't leave, Wu Lingling was so anxious that she was about to cry for the first time. When Tang Guo saw the other party's red eyes, she felt very comfortable. Before long, the teachers of Qin Rulan and Wu Lingling's junior high school arrived. When Qin Rulan saw Wu Lingling's red eyes, she was angry and felt that her daughter was disappointing. When she saw Tang Guo sitting obediently at the side, she walked over to Tang Guo and asked, "Xiao Guo, what's going on? Why did you have to make such a big deal out of this?" "Auntie, Lingling stole my ID card. If I didn't realize that something was wrong, I don't know what she would do with it." "Why did Lingling take your ID card for no reason?" Qin Rulan was still uncomfortable. Couldn't they talk about family matters behind closed doors? Why did they have to make such a big deal out of it? She was very unhappy with Tang Guo. Tang Guo couldn't be bothered to argue with Qin Rulan. "Auntie, why don't you ask Lingling why she took my ID card? This isn't a small matter. If she took my ID card to do something illegal, what do you think the consequences will be? Since Auntie is here, please ask her clearly. I'm sure Auntie still remembers what Lingling did last time, right?" The school was also criticizing Wu Lingling, especially the teacher of Wu Lingling's junior high school. Her face was flushed red from the criticism. Now that she had been caught red-handed, she couldn't defend herself even if she wanted to. This Wu Lingling was a jinx. In front of so many people, Wu Lingling naturally refused to admit what she had done with the ID card. Tang Guo also didn't have much hope that Wu Lingling would admit that she had used the ID card to get an abortion. She just wanted to make a big deal out of it. It was that simple. Finally, Wu Lingling was taken away by Qin Rulan. After the teacher went back, he suggested to the principal that Wu Lingling should be fired. Going to someone else's school to steal things, she really couldn't afford to lose face. However, because Lu Jing had forced Wu Lingling into the school and gave her a lot of money, she decided to stay in the school. Qin Rulan couldn't control Wu Lingling. After teaching her a lesson, it was useless. Tang Guo called Mother Tang the same day she learned about this matter. What? Lingling snuck into your school to steal your ID. Mrs. Tang's expression was indescribable. This Wu Lingling was really getting out of hand. Well, Mom, I still don't know what she's going to do with the ID card. Can you get someone to pay attention to it? If she really does something illegal, Andy still doesn't know what to do. Tang Guo did not have good intentions when she said that. She could not directly expose the fact that Wu Lingling was pregnant and wanted an abortion. She didn't intend to expose Wu Lingling in the first place. She just wanted to watch Wu Lingling degenerate step by step. But she couldn't forgive Wu Lingling for stealing her ID card. So, it was better not to be too complacent about the pregnancy. Mrs. Tang still cared about Qin Rulan, so she immediately said that she would get someone to pay attention to it. Mrs. Tang and Mr. Tang were very capable. They knew a lot of people, and many accomplished people were likely to be their classmates. Soon, there was a result. Fupin Chinese Top Point. Chapter 1411. Tang Guo learned from the system that Wu Lingling had gone to the hospital for an abortion and was seen by one of Mother Tang's classmates. Mother Tang and Father Tang had a group chat and knew that Wu Lingling had tried to steal Tang Guo's identity card. Mother Tang didn't tell the people in the group chat about this. Instead, she told them that Wu Lingling was rebellious and if they saw her doing anything unusual, they should inform her so that Wu Lingling wouldn't go down the wrong path. Those who were familiar with Wu Lingling's family knew about it. Many of the children in the group chat went to the same school as Tang Guo, so they knew more about it. Mother Tang's classmates happened to be at the hospital where Wu Lingling had gone for an abortion. Wu Lingling didn't know them, but many people knew Wu Lingling's name. Moreover, Mother Tang had specifically told them not to. When Mother Tang found out about this, she immediately understood why Wu Lingling had tried to steal Tang Guo's identity card. She hated Wu Lingling to the core. This time, she had really given up on Wu Lingling and told Qin Rulan about it. Apparently, Qin Rulan gave Wu Lingling a good beating. Wu Lingling didn't even want to live at home and moved in with Lu Jing. Qin Rulan couldn't do anything about it, so she complained to Mother Tang. Sister, why did I have such a daughter? She's so young and she's so mischievous. She played with hooligans and even had an abortion. It was embarrassing to talk about it. Sister, what should I do? If only Lingling was as obedient as Xiao Guo. Why didn't she learn from Xiao Guo? You have to teach a child from a young age. In the past, you didn't want to spend more time on it. Now that you've gone astray, it's hard to turn things around. Mother Tang didn't want to care about Qin Rulan's affairs. Wu Lingling was the one who didn't learn to be good and even tried to frame her daughter. She was so evil at such a young age. If she wasn't Qin Rulan's daughter, she would have killed her. Not to mention that she couldn't do anything about it. Even if she could, she wouldn't help Wu Lingling anymore. She would treat everything she did as if she had fed a dog. If Qin Rulan didn't understand, she wouldn't want this girl anymore. She didn't know how to teach a child and spent all her time on a man. She didn't even care about her own child and expected others to help her. Mrs. Tang understood. Therefore, no matter what Qin Rulan said, she did not say anything about interfering. In the end, Qin Rulan left with resentment in her heart. Mrs. Tang could only sigh when she saw the look on Mrs. Tang's face. Now that she thought about it carefully, it was really fortunate that her daughter had not been led astray. If she knew that there was no Tang Guo in this world, and that her daughter would be on the path to hell, would she still feel lucky? Would he be able to remain calm when facing Wu Lingling? Several days passed, but Wu Lingling still didn't come home. Qin Rulan looked for her several times, but Wu Lingling yelled at her. She didn't take her mother seriously at all. She was extremely rebellious and said that she wouldn't go home again. Qin Rulan then went to Mrs. Tang and complained to her mother about how hard her life was. Mrs. Tang was a kind-hearted person. She might not care about Wu Lingling, but if something really happened to Qin Rulan, she probably wouldn't be so heartless. So, this weekend, Tang Guo poured a glass of water for Mother and Father Tang. She put 2 golden millet dreams in the water so they could feel the despair of their past lives. System, terrifying. He thought that the host wouldn't do anything to Mother and Father Tang. As it turned out, these 2 had to eat golden millet dreams. 1 dream was worth a lifetime. It was enough for these 2 to suffer. Peak. Chapter 14:12. Unrealized dream wasn't really a dream. Instead, it was like experiencing a forgotten life, and the memory was very deep. Those who had used unrealized dream wouldn't think that their dreams were fake. The next morning, Tang Guo felt refreshed. It was the weekend. Originally, the couple had pretty good habits. Even if it was the weekend or when they had nothing to do, they would still get up at 6 or 7. But today, they didn't get up. It wasn't until 8 that Tang Guo heard some movement in the house. Mrs. Tang seemed to be crying. She sat on the sofa, watching TV and drinking milk, waiting quietly. At around 9:30, Mrs. Tang and Mr. Tang came out. Both of them didn't look too good. When they looked at Tang Guo, their eyes were filled with guilt and relief. Tang Guo knew what they were rejoicing about. They were rejoicing that everything they experienced in this world was different from their dreams. But was it that simple? The system sensed Tang Guo's thoughts and couldn't help but ask. "Host, do you have any thoughts?" "Yes." "What thoughts?" "Nothing. I'll just find a chance to tell them that this perfect daughter of mine isn't their real daughter. She's a mission enforcer who's here to help their daughter fulfill her wish and live a new life. System, this bad woman is really too bad. Actually, I don't need to find a chance. They've already used unrealized dream, so many details will be different. They're not idiots. They'll slowly realize that I'm not their real daughter." "Host, you're so cruel." Mrs. Tang and Mr. Tang were even more concerned about Tang Guo now. They didn't say anything else. But they didn't talk about Wu Lingling or Qin Rulan anymore. No matter how pitiful Qin Rulan was, Mrs. Tang didn't waver. The 2 of them worked diligently while taking care of their daughter. That night's dream still haunted them, and they couldn't get rid of it. Now, whenever they saw Wu Lingling, they felt uncomfortable. They told themselves countless times that it was just a dream. But when they thought about the details that made Tang Guo different from their daughter, they realized that this daughter in front of them was even more outstanding. Their hearts sank, but they still didn't say anything. It was better for Tang Guo. They refused to admit it, "Host. If you don't want to admit it, so be it." Tang Guo was already in the 2nd semester of her 2nd year of high school. Her grades had always been at the top. Apart from Wu Lingling, who had completely become a female gangster and had been shuffling between Lu Jing and the gangsters, the other members of the family were becoming more and more outstanding. Almost a year later, Wu Lingling had another abortion and pushed the blame to Lu Jing again. Lu Jing was still unaware of this. After school in the afternoon, Tang Guo was still doing her homework in the classroom. Not long after, Xiao Gu arrived with dinner. "Hungry?" "Not yet." "Eat this before you do the exercise." Xiao Gu opened the insulated box and placed it in front of Tang Guo. "Try it." Tang Guo looked up with a smile. "Brother Xiao Gu." "Little sister Tang Guo." After interacting with her for so long, how could Xiao Gu not know that this little sister was very clever? "Did you make these?" Xiao Gu nodded. "I did it. Brother, you're amazing." Xiao Gu was full of smiles from the praise, and his eyes softened. "Eat, I'll leave first. Just put the insulated box at the door of the infirmary later." Before he left, he touched Tangua's head and said in a low voice, "Little sister, you have to become an adult soon. Brother, why don't you go and push the earth once? I'll be an adult soon." "Xiao Gu, what do you mean by pushing the earth once? Can you do that?" Peek. Chapter 14-13. A year ago, Wu Lingling had chosen to drop out of school. Qin Rulan liked to tell others about Wu Lingling's rebellious behavior of not returning home and fooling around outside. She said that Wu Lingling was insensible. She even said that Wu Lingling did not understand her parents' feelings and had let her down. She had never thought that Wu Lingling became a delinquent because she worked 2 jobs and spent most of her money on Wu Jun. Before Wu Lingling transferred to another school, Mrs. Tang had paid for her school fees. Even most of Wu Lingling's pocket money was given by Mrs. Tang. Apart from giving Wu Lingling a place to stay, she also gave Wu Lingling some money every day. She had never spent any effort on Wu Lingling. How could she expect her daughter to become a phoenix? Wu Lingling did not learn well and became a delinquent. That was because she was insensible. Mrs. Tang looked at Wu Lingling and did not help her. In her heart, she was complaining that Mrs. Tang no longer valued their sisterly relationship. Of course, she did not dare to voice out her dissatisfaction in front of Mrs. Tang. She did not have the confidence. Perhaps one day, she would have to rely on Mrs. Tang to help her. She did not know that Mrs. Tang, who had taken a pipe dream, had been kind enough not to strangle her to death. In the later part of her previous life, after the fall of the original owner and Wu Lingling's rise, Qin Rulan had often bragged in front of Mrs. Tang. A golden millet dream was much clearer than experiencing that world in person. Because in this dream, she could see what the important characters had experienced from their perspective. Ziyun knew that Tang Guo would travel to all kinds of small worlds, experience all kinds of strange things, and possess the bodies of some miserable people. Therefore, all these years, she had been researching and upgrading the drugs that Tang Guo needed. Mrs. Tang, who had seen what had happened in her previous life from various angles, did not feel any sympathy for Qin Rulan no matter how much she cried or complained. She even regretted being so devoted to such a person. Tang Guo could feel the uncertainty and sadness in Mrs. Tang's eyes every time she looked at her. In the end, she would turn silent and treat her well in silence. It was the same for Mr. Tang. Many times, she could feel the two of them sighing in another room. However, she had never encountered a time when the two of them would talk about her. It was as if they had tacitly agreed not to talk about this matter. Even though they knew that there were many suspicious points about her and that she was not their real daughter, they did not want to expose this lie. Tang Guo did not intend to expose them. Regardless of whether she exposed them or not, the latter half of their lives would not be easy as long as they knew in their hearts that she was not their real daughter. Their real daughter was already gone. She had even experienced everything in the unrealized dream. Then, for the rest of the time, they would be in extreme pain. That was enough. Now that Wu Lingling was no longer a good person, Lu Jing no longer had the intention to change for the better. The boss of Brother Knife's gang reported this matter to a certain young master of the Lu family. The young master knew that Wu Lingling was holding Lu Jing back, so he thought that it was just right. As long as Lu Jing missed the best time, he would never have the chance to make a comeback. Just like that, Tang Guo entered the 3rd year of high school. There was only a month left before the college entrance examination. Her peers in the same generation as her had already taken the college entrance examination last year. Although they were not in the top schools, with their strengths, their schools were still first class. Her life was already different from her previous life. Many people had high hopes for Tang Guo. Peak. Chapter 14-14. One day, when Wu Lingling and a few delinquents passed by the entrance of Tang Guo's school, it was school time. She stood by the side, chewing gum. She was no longer wearing heavy metal clothes. She was wearing a t-shirt and a denim skirt. Of course, her hair was dyed in several colors. She even had her nails done in a fancy way. She had pierced her ears with various trendy earrings. The earrings on both sides were different. She even had a necklace made of skulls around her neck. These were very trendy for people like her. Wu Lingling had left her family and stopped studying. Now, all her expenses came from Lu Jing. Lu Jing felt that he owed Wu Lingling a lot for causing her to have 2 abortions. Basically, he would give her whatever she wanted. The college entrance exams are in a month. Oh my god, Tang Gua is the top student again. That's scary. I passed by the office that day and heard the language teacher say that she really wanted to give Tang Gua full marks. But she deducted 1 mark because she was afraid that she would be too proud. How can there be such a pervert in this world? Why do I have to meet someone like her who sits on the same level as her? It's so satisfying. Wu Lingling did not care about what the people around her were saying. But when she heard the words, Tang Gua, she was unusually sensitive. From what she knew, if Tang Gua had received a call back then, she would not be like this today. She had become like this, being harassed by gangsters and having 2 abortions, all because of Tang Gua. If not for Tang Gua, her theft of her identity card would not have been exposed. If not for Mother Tang's meddling classmates, her abortion would not have been known by everyone in the family. Wu Lingling was furious when she heard that Tang Gua was still so outstanding and even more outstanding than before. Why was Tang Gua still standing in such a dazzling position when she had become like this? Last year, she did not attend the family gathering. She did not even go back home. What was the point of doing so? But she had her family's group chat and her family's circle of friends. In her family, all her peers who were close to Tang Gua seemed to have improved a lot. It was said that one of Tang Gua's cousins was admitted to a prestigious university because of his talent in mathematics. There were quite a number of such incidents. In short, each of them seemed to have their own strengths. Tang Gua also had a cousin who was lucky enough to have a famous master of Chinese arts as her master. The more outstanding her peers were, the more Wu Lingling didn't want to meet them. Occasionally, when she bumped into familiar faces on the street, she would subconsciously turn her head and walk away, not looking at the other party, pretending not to see them. What she was most afraid of was people she knew asking her how she was doing. However, it seemed that no one had come to ask her. She took a detour, but the other party had no intention of calling her. Thinking that Tang Gua was about to take the college entrance examination, Wu Lingling felt very sad. On what basis? There was no need to guess. As long as Tang Gua was allowed to participate in the college entrance examination, she would definitely do her best. By then, she would definitely be the top scorer in science in the city. By then, countless people would be interviewed, reported, and on the news. Tang Gua would be the shining star. She was the mud hiding in the dark. She did not believe that no one would secretly compare her with Tang Gua. Tang Gua was a role model, while she was a negative example. She felt that the world was full of evil intentions towards her. Hearing people talking about Tang Gua enviously, Wu Lingling spat her chewing gum on the ground angrily and turned to leave. The Peak. Chapter 14-15. Wu Lingling didn't go far. Instead, she changed to another place and found a place to eat snacks. She bought some snacks. Lu Jing doted on her a lot now. He was not short of money and gave her a lot of money to spend. Lu Jing felt sorry for her, so spending some money on her was nothing. Hence, Wu Lingling was not short of money now. She often treated the delinquents around her to good food. Now, they were holding a big bunch of skewers. As they ate, they threw the bamboo skewers on the ground. Some of the skewers with bones and shells were spat out on the ground. Even if the rubbish bin was not far away, they acted as if they did not see it and just threw it away. As they were not dressed properly, even if the people around them were disgusted, they did not dare to say anything and just stood at a distance. This position was facing the school gate. When Tang Guo came out of the school gate, she saw Wu Lingling and a few delinquents eating and throwing rubbish everywhere. They had no manners at all. Host, she has fallen completely. But she seems to be able to bear it. Because she is a degenerate to begin with, everything she has experienced will only make her feel a little sad. Two different people going through the same thing would have different pressures and experiences. Wu Lingling's choice was to go all out and mingle with these people. She did not feel guilty about what she had done. In her heart, she was probably still resentful that she did not pick up the phone back then. Wu Lingling also saw Tang Guo. At first glance, she was a little stunned. Tang Guo, who was almost 18 years old, was even more beautiful. That face was the face of his first love. Just by standing there casually, she could attract the attention of countless people. Wu Lingling suddenly felt that the skewers in her hand were tasteless. When she saw Tang Guo just glancing at her and getting into the car without a care, she gritted her teeth and felt a little angry. What's there to be proud of? Wasn't she just good-looking and had good grades? Sister Lingling, why aren't you eating? I don't feel like eating. Looking at some people makes me annoyed. The delinquents were still perceptive and asked in a low voice, Sister Lingling, you don't like Tang Guo, right? She's quite arrogant. She's relying on her grades and the school's support. Yes, I think she's bad and hypocritical. You don't know, but none of my relatives say anything bad about her. Every time I see her, it's especially infuriating. They have no idea how fake Tang Guo really is. Sister Lingling, since you hate her so much, why don't you find a chance to teach her a lesson? You have Brother Lu to back you up, and you also have Brother Dao to help you. You can easily teach her a lesson. Wu Lingling frowned. Do you think I don't want to? She never ran around. Every day, there was a chauffeur to pick her up. Even when she went shopping, there would be someone accompanying her. Moreover, her family has a wide range of connections. If we provoke her, we might be locked up for a few days. I don't want to go in and be a cold bench. Sister Lingling, I have a good idea. A delinquent girl's eyes lit up. This method will definitely teach her a lesson. She definitely won't be able to be arrogant. What is it? Her results are good, so she must be very concerned about it. We want to help her so that she can't take the college entrance exam. Wu Lingling was stunned for a moment, but she quickly laughed. Can't take the college entrance exam? Yes. The delinquents nodded. Sister Lingling, this can be considered as teaching her a lesson, right? Yes. It was too much. Peak. Chapter 14-16. Host, they don't want you to take the college entrance exams. Got it. The system wasn't worried. With its surveillance, these people wouldn't be able to do anything. Moreover, for someone like the host, taking the college entrance exams wouldn't have much of an impact on her. However, when the host said that she wanted to be a good student, she was actually helping the original host fulfill her unfulfilled wish. The original host didn't give up on studying even after such an encounter. In the end, she couldn't take it anymore. There was no other way. Host, what do you plan to do after taking the college entrance exams and going to university? What about that guy? He's looking forward to you becoming an adult every day. Since he's so obedient, I'll bring him along wherever I go. Host, do you still want to eat the dinner that Big Brother Xiao Gu made? Tang Guo wiped her mouth with a tissue and said with a smile, it's delicious. His culinary skills are improving every day. It's getting better and better. Host, your big brother Chow Gu is very sinister. He's trying to trap you. It's his ability to trap me. Anyway, I think it's pretty good. My big brother is perfect and cute in my heart right now. System, escape, escape. I can't take this anymore. I can't take this dog food. Tangwa didn't even go to the cafeteria to eat in the afternoon. After the other students left, Xiao Gu would sneak into her classroom and pass her the food container. The dishes were different every day. He made all of them himself. Sometimes, he would even make soup. Xiao Gu had already thought it through. His wife had to be raised by him. Raising her from a young age would definitely be different. If he really waited for such an outstanding girl to become an adult before he took action, it would be too late. Now, he was slowly giving the girl warmth. As he did so, he might even be able to give himself away. What do you want to eat in the afternoon? Tang Guo was sitting by the window. Xiao Gu was standing by the window, looking at her with a smile in his eyes. Tang Guo ate a mouthful of rice and looked up. Big brother Xiao Gu, you can cook whatever you want. Everything you cook is delicious. It's a little hot today. I'll cook a pumpkin mung bean soup for you in the afternoon to cool down. Xiao Gu calculated that he definitely couldn't eat greasy food at night. However, his little sister's daily studies were very heavy. While the dishes were light, they had to be nutritious and delicious. He stood there and calculated. He watched Tangua eat. When Tangua finished eating and the other students were almost done, he could leave with the thermos. Of course, there were people who knew about Xiao Gu delivering food to Tangua. Even the teachers and students in the school knew about it. However, regardless of whether it was the final exam or every test, Tangua's results had never dropped. Other than delivering food to Tangua, Xiao Gu didn't do anything else. He really couldn't find anything wrong with it, so he didn't care about it. Moreover, they also saw what Tangua ate every day. They were really jealous and jealous. Xiao Gu carried the thermal box and went downstairs. Those who knew him would smile ambiguously at him and tease, "Dr. Xiao, aren't you busy today?" "I'm not busy." Xiao Gu replied with a smile. Occasionally, he would bump into the principal. The principal rubbed his forehead in regret. Why did he agree to let this guy be the school doctor? He glanced at his thermal lunchbox and asked, "Are you going to sneak off to the market again?" Peek. Chapter 14-17. Uncle Lin, you know. Xiao Gu maintained her smile. Now that studies are intense, students have to eat more nutritious food to prevent dizziness and weakness. Principal Lin, no, he doesn't know. He doesn't know anything. Student. Which student? Dr. Chow, how come I don't know that you care so much about our school students? Do you want to work in the cafeteria when you're free? Uncle Lin, what do you want to eat? I'll make more for you in the afternoon. Oh right, I'm preparing pumpkin and mung bean soup. Do you want some? Principal Lin's stiff face revealed a smile again. He patted Xiao Ji's shoulder and said softly, "Pumpkin and mung bean soup. Don't add sugar. Add less salt and more chili." Understood, Uncle Lin. Xiao Gu, you go to the market every day to buy groceries and cook. What about the infirmary? Principal Lin's expression became serious again. Don't forget that you're a school doctor now. The weather is hot now. If you leave, there might be problems with the students and we can't find you. Xiao Gu wasn't worried at all. She said confidently, I've taken in 2 disciples. They don't want a salary or food from me. They're willing to work for me. Uncle Lin, don't worry. They have no problem dealing with the school's small problems. Principal Lin was a little confused. When did this happen? Why didn't I know about it? Uncle Lin, if you're worried, come with me to the infirmary. There's no problem with their standards. Moreover, they don't want money and work for free. Don't you think that's a good thing? Principal Lin was indeed worried. Although Xiao Gu wouldn't do anything out of line. Even if Xiao Gu had her eyes on his school's most outstanding student, she would only deliver food and water. She wouldn't say anything out of line. Moreover, most of the time, she would keep a distance when talking to other students. It had been 2 years and they hadn't even held hands. Thinking of this, Principal Lin suddenly felt that he was too harsh. It sounded like Xiao Gu was a little pitiful. However, he felt that it was good to keep such a distance to prevent other students from following the trend. Xiao Ji's restraint, courtesy, and consideration for the students had made many female students in the school understand that the male students were frivolous people. It had to be said that because of Xiao Ji's appearance, the number of puppy love incidents in the school had decreased. When a male student pursued a female student, the female student would subconsciously compare herself to Xiao Gu and then ask a question that would make one vomit blood. Can you cook? Male classmate, I can make it, but it might not taste good. However, I will improve. Female classmate, you play basketball every day, do you have time to learn how to cook? You still have class. Can you bring me food? The male classmate. Sorry to interrupt. There were also male students who wanted to hold female students' hands. The female classmate flung him away. Let's break up. You're so frivolous. We've only been together for a week and you want to hold my hand. You want to be friends with me because you want to hold my hand, right? I'd rather you copy my homework than hold my hand. The male student, ? All the male students in the school shouted that they couldn't do it. They should just forget about dating. His girlfriend was not as interesting as his studies. Principal Lin followed Xiao Gu to the infirmary and saw a few familiar faces in their 30s. He almost knelt down in front of Xiao Gu. This. Xiao Gu was playing with too much. Vertex. Chapter 14-18. He had thought that they would at most be a few talented youngsters. Little did he expect that those who came to his school as free school doctors were reputable doctors. One of them had even operated on him. Free school doctors? He didn't believe it even if he was beaten to death. He had a vague guess that these fellows wanted to learn something from Xiao Gu. Speaking of Xiao Gu, he couldn't help but sigh. This guy was a genius in the medical field. Although he was only in his 20s, his achievements were beyond the reach of many who had spent their whole lives in this field. In this world, there were always some people who could make others feel jealous and would willingly kneel down to them. Xiao Gu was such a person. After greeting the new free school doctors, Principal Lin left with his hands clasped behind his back and a smile on his face. This time, he wasn't worried at all. With these guys around, even if it was a serious situation, it wouldn't be a problem for them to treat it, let alone a minor illness or pain. Xiao Gu was really something. He had actually managed to hire these free school doctors. When the principal returned to his office and walked to the corridor, he instinctively glanced down and saw Xiao Gu carrying a basket of groceries out of the school. He almost fell over the railing. This guy was really unscrupulous in order to send himself into the hands of his little classmate. The people in the school were already used to seeing Xiao Gu carrying a basket of groceries and riding a bicycle to the market. Every time, Xiao Gu was a sight to behold. Because he was so handsome and had such a bright smile, he actually carried a basket of groceries with him. This kind of contrast was really irresistible. The male students in the school hated Xiao Gu. If not for this guy, they wouldn't have been unable to find girlfriends. Whenever they confessed, the female students would ask them if they knew how to cook, if they were friends with them just to hold their hands. If they dared to be unruly, the female students would say that they were frivolous and reject such frivolous guys. The male students were speechless. Time flew by and a month had passed. Finally, it was the day before the college entrance examination. Mrs. Tang and Mr. Tang had both returned and were planning to accompany Tang Guo to the college entrance examination. That night, Tang Guo received a notification from the system saying that Wu Lingling's gangsters had gone to her chauffeur's house and punctured his tires. Her chauffeur lived not far from here. For the sake of convenience, he would usually drive the car back to his house. The next day, early in the morning, he arrived at Tang Guo's house on time. "Record it," Tang Guo said and went to sleep. The next morning, Mrs. Tang and Mr. Tang received news that Luan Tai had been stabbed by someone. If the two of them hadn't taken a pipe dream before, they would have thought that it was just a coincidence. Now that their eyes were closed, they would remember the scene in their dreams. In order to prevent Wu Lingling from hurting Tang Guo, he even investigated Wu Lingling. They didn't think that puncturing a tire was a small matter. It might be a conspiracy. The two of them looked at each other. Seeing that Tang Guo had not come down, they whispered to each other. "Why don't we split up and drive a car each?" Mrs. Tang furrowed her brows. "It doesn't matter if we're wrong or not, we still need to be careful." "If it really is her, then," Father Tang sighed. "It's all my fault. I didn't think so much. I thought it was just an ordinary college entrance exam." When Tang Guo came downstairs, Mother Tang and Father Tang were stunned. Vertex. Chapter 14:19. The reason why Father Tang and Mother Tang were stunned was because Tang Guo wasn't wearing her school uniform today, nor was she wearing her little skirt. Instead, she was wearing casual sportswear with a short-sleeved shirt and long pants. She was holding a helmet in her hands. If they didn't know that today was the day of the college entrance exam, they would have thought that she was going on a road trip. "Xiaoguo, what are you doing?" her mother asked curiously. "Why are you dressed like this and holding a helmet?" "Your father and I were just discussing who would send you to school." "Dad, Mom, I'll go to school on my own today. I'll go by bike." Tang Guo had a slight smile on her face. "During my 3 years in high school, I had a driver to send me to school every day. Many of my classmates either rode bikes or took the bus. It's the day of the college entrance exam. I want to try what it feels like to ride a bike." If the two of them hadn't taken a pipe of dreams, they would have thought that Tang Guo was telling the truth and wanted to do something different during the college entrance exam. The two of them, who knew everything that had happened in that lifetime, could only think of one possibility. Tang Guo knew that Wu Lingling would play tricks on the road and that it might affect her college entrance exam. The two of them looked at each other and decided to agree to her request. They didn't know who was living in their daughter's body, but they could tell from the other party's behavior that this person wasn't a bad person. She had resolved everything that had happened to their daughter and was walking in the direction that their daughter was supposed to go. When they thought of the scene in their dream, their eyes welled up with tears. They didn't speak and only exchanged glances. They would never admit that Tang Guo wasn't their daughter. They didn't want to expose this lie for the rest of their lives. This young lady in front of them was their daughter. Her mother said, "Okay, Xiaoguo has always been so obedient. We'll do as you say today. But for your safety, your father and I will follow behind you." Tang Guo agreed. She could feel that the two of them weren't just following her. They seemed to want to do something. The three of them ate in silence. Tang Guo put on her helmet and went downstairs. She didn't want to make it so grand, but today was the day of the college entrance exam and they couldn't afford to delay it. A slight delay would fulfill Wu Lingling's wish. Her parents didn't seem to want to let it go. Since they wanted to interfere, she wouldn't stop them. Tang Guo's house was in a high-end neighborhood. Just as she stepped out of the neighborhood, the system alerted her that there were people hiding at the side and peeking at the neighborhood. After confirming that these people were Brother Dao's subordinates. But they didn't notice Tang Guo wearing a helmet and sportswear. He only thought that she was someone who lived in this neighborhood and didn't care at all. Tang Guo got on the car, while Mother Tang and Father Tang also drove behind her. The system reminded her that one of the two was following her, while the other was driving in another direction. This road was also the road to the school. Tang Guo smiled. She had to admit that with the two of them attracting her attention, she felt much more relaxed. There were still many students riding bicycles along the way. No one would notice her at all. Moreover, she always gave people the impression that she was a sensible, obedient, and good student. Chapter 14:20. No one would believe that she would ride a bicycle to take the exam on the day of the exam, right? Host, your parents are really naughty. They actually put a doll half the height of a person in the bicycle seat. From afar, it really does look like a person. Tang Guo laughed out loud. The two of them were trying their best to salvage the situation, but it was useless. What had happened was what had happened. From the moment she came to this world and changed everything, everything could not return to the beginning. After all, she was not the original owner. Tang Guo went to the school without any obstructions and arrived at the entrance of the exam room. Xiao Gu was waiting outside the exam room very early. Seeing Tang Guo dressed differently than usual, he felt a little strange. Why are you dressed like this today? Tang Guo smiled and said, I'm cheering myself on. Are you nervous? Xiao Gu asked with a smile in his eyes. He did not care if she was telling the truth or not. Regardless of whether his little sister was telling the truth or not, as long as she said it to him, he would feel that it was good. I'm not nervous. Xiao Gu passed the prepared paper and pen to Tang Guo. I've already checked it many times. There won't be any mistakes. I even prepared 3 copies. It's enough. Big brother Xiao Gu, thank you. No need to thank me. This is what I want to do. Xiao Gu said very seriously. Seeing that no one came, he asked in a low voice, Little sister, in a few months, you'll be an adult. Yes. Tang Guo looked at Xiao Gu with clear eyes. Xiao Gu coughed lightly. What I mean is that you should take the exam seriously and get a good result. Treat it as your coming-of-age gift so that you won't have any regrets in the future. And big brother Xiao Gu is right. I'll take the exam seriously. System, ha 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 ha, what a joke. This guy, what exactly did he want to say? In the end, he gave her words of encouragement. Then you can go in. Xiao Gu watched as Tang Guo entered the exam room. In the end, he reluctantly retracted his gaze. Suddenly, he felt a cold gaze on him. Only then did he realize that Principal Lin had been standing there for a long time. He smiled and greeted, Uncle Lin, good morning. It's not early anymore. The exam is coming soon. Why are you still standing here? Don't you know that standing here will affect the students' exams? Hurry up and return to your infirmary. Principal Lin immediately scolded her, but Xiao Gu maintained her smile the entire time. She glanced at Tang Guo's seat in the classroom and quickly left. Humph, this brat, that smile in his eyes is like a wolf seeing fresh meat. Bah, that brat is a wolf. My schoolmates are thirsty not for meat. After Principal Lin finished muttering, he felt that something was amiss and quickly walked away. Tang Guo sat in the examination hall and listened to the system report on what had happened to Father and Mother Tang. Father Tang drove to a certain street. When he turned a corner, a bicycle came from the opposite side and directly scammed him. The other party was also skilled, and Father Tang was already prepared. If he bumped into them, so be it. If they didn't want him to leave, what could he do? Even if he offered them money, they wouldn't be willing. Father Tang's expression was dark. He didn't look too good. If he really was the one driving Tanggua to the exam hall today, he would definitely be delayed for a long time if someone tried to blackmail him. The other party kept scolding and nagging, unwilling to let him go. Father Tang directly called the police. Mother Tang's situation wasn't any better. Currently, an old lady was lying in front of her car. Peek. Chapter 14:21. Luckily, she braked quickly and didn't crash into her. When she saw the old lady appear and run straight to her car, she was shocked. When Mrs. Tang thought about what had happened to her daughter in her dream, she was furious and upset. These people were so evil. Her daughter was so obedient. How could Wu Lingling pretend that nothing had happened? She even thought that her daughter was bad and ran to their house to comfort them. Even if she didn't know that Xiao Guo was in trouble because of her, didn't Wu Lingling find out later on? In her dream, the couple even apologized to Wu Lingling for not teaching Xiao Guo well. These scenes were like needles stabbing her heart. Wu Lingling didn't even bat an eyelid and said that she didn't blame Xiao Guo. Wu Lingling, was she worthy? She didn't even dare to admit her mistakes until her death. Was she not worthy of talking about Xiao Guo? When she saw the old lady, she really had the urge to drive over and kill her. This kind of money-taking and harming people wasn't human at all. She was a beast. Luckily, she finally came to her senses. She couldn't let her family fall into another tragedy because of Wu Lingling. Even if many things were different now. Even if she was happy on the surface, she had to do her best to maintain it. It didn't matter if that person was her daughter or not. What she did was what her daughter wanted to do. Her daughter, Xiao Guo, was now on the path to greatness. Her future was limitless, and her life was bright. Wu Lingling had already fallen into the abyss. She couldn't do something that violated the rules. If she hurt herself, she would destroy their family. Mrs. Tang's eyes turned red when she thought about her daughter's death in her dream. She stood beside the old lady and coldly watched her roll on the ground, screaming in pain. The old lady felt that something was wrong. But the other party said that her mission after receiving the money was to stop the car. No matter how she stopped it, as long as she stopped the car, it was right. She had to stop it for at least half an hour. After half an hour, it wouldn't be her business anymore. Brother Knife thought it through. He couldn't stop Mrs. Tang forever. So, he had arranged for a follow-up. Once Mother Tang escaped, he would arrange for another obstacle. Wu Lingling told him that he only needed to stop Tangguo from taking the exam this morning. He thought it was simple, but he didn't expect that everything that had happened was different from what he had imagined. Mrs. Tang quietly took out her phone and called the police. This matter would not end so easily. She didn't look for Wu Lingling to settle the score, but Wu Lingling came to ruin her daughter again. Was there such a good thing in this world? Old Madame Tang screamed for a while. The people around watched the show, but Mrs. Tang didn't come up to care about her at all. She felt even more uneasy, but she had taken the money after all. Perhaps she could still extort a sum of money here. Thus, she closed her eyes and curled up her body with a pained expression. When two uniformed police officers came to her side, she was still unconscious. I was the one who called the police. She's a scammer. Mrs. Tang's voice was a little cold. I'll have to trouble you to help me investigate. When the old lady heard this, she felt that something was wrong. She opened her eyes and saw two uniformed police officers. Her heart skipped a beat. She flipped over and got up to run. "I suspect that she stole my diamond ring," Mrs. Tang said. The two police officers quickly caught the old lady. The peak. Chapter 1422. When did I steal your diamond ring? Old Madame Tang panicked. Scamming and stealing were two different things. Mrs. Tang didn't have the slightest hint of a smile on her face. She wondered if she had been too soft-hearted and kind in her dream to have let her daughter suffer such a fate. Why didn't she think of a way to punish such evil people? In this world, there were many people like old Madame Tang. Why didn't they get punished? Today, she wanted to punish such people. Didn't they want to scam her? Then she would say that they stole her expensive diamond ring. Mrs. Tang stretched out her hand and pointed at the spot where the ring mark was. "When I got out of the car just now, the diamond ring accidentally slipped and fell on your spot. Old lady, did you pick it up?" Mrs. Tang had a smile on her face, but in old Madame Tang's eyes, it was very scary. She regretted taking on such a job. "I didn't pick it up." "How could I have picked it up? I didn't see the ring at all." "You're framing me." Old Madame Tang was anxious. Her face and neck were red, and she was no longer wailing on the ground. At this time, Mrs. Tang said to the police, "Then I want to sue her for scamming. As for the ring, I think the two police officers will investigate it properly." She had to get to the bottom of this matter. Whoever did it must be found out. No one could escape. Old Madame Tang was anxious. Her strong and powerful appearance had already made the police suspicious. Moreover, Mrs. Tang's diamond ring was expensive. They had to take care of it. So they brought old Madame Tang and Mrs. Tang back to the police station. At the entrance of the police station, Mrs. Tang and Mr. Tang bumped into each other. The husband and wife looked at each other. There was a smile in their eyes, but there were also tears that refused to fall. In the end, they walked into the police station together, holding hands. The people in the police station were very surprised that something had happened to the husband and wife today. But they did not expect that the truth behind this matter would be so infuriating. Tang Guo knew all this through the system. Even at this time, she was already doing a question. The system knew that she would not be affected by anything else. It told her again about the strong side of Mr. and Mrs. Tang in the police station. Under the pressure of Mrs. Tang and Mr. Tang, the two scammers told the truth. Following the two of them, they caught Brother Knife. They learned about Wu Lingling from Brother Dao. They finally understood that these two incidents were actually caused by a female delinquent who wanted to stop their city's best student from taking the college entrance examination. When the people in the police station found out the truth, their expressions were indescribable. If they were not policemen, they would have slapped Wu Lingling's face and given her a good beating. How could she be so vicious? Wu Lingling was invited to the confrontation. Mrs. Tang informed Qin Rulan about such a big incident. In addition, the system secretly sent some videos to the police. Looking at those videos, Wu Lingling couldn't deny it. For the first time, Mother Tang slapped Wu Lingling hard across the face in front of Qin Rulan. Wu Lingling and Qin Rulan were both shocked by this action. Mrs. Tang had always been a gentle and kind person. She rarely scolded Qin Rulan, her biological sister, let alone hit her. "What did Xiaogui do to wrong you? Why did you deliberately arrange for these delinquents to stop Xiaoguo from taking the college entrance examination?" After the slap, Mrs. Tang finally felt better. Climax. Chapter 1423. Sister. Let's talk nicely. Why did you have to hit her? Qin Rulan looked at Wu Lingling, whose face was red and swollen from the slap. She felt sorry for her and quickly pulled Mrs. Tang back. When Mrs. Tang heard this, she was so angry that she laughed. Talk nicely. Qin Rulan, ask your good daughter if she can behave well and stop harming Xiaoguo. My Xiaoguo is lucky to have worked hard for 3 years. If she had really taken my car to the college entrance exam today, she would have been delayed and wouldn't have been able to enter the exam hall. Even if she did, she would have been delayed and her performance would have been affected. What do you want me to say when she fails the exam? Qin Rulan was speechless for a moment. She couldn't refute these words. She didn't feel anything about Tangguo's college entrance exam. The more outstanding Tangguo became, the more upset she felt. Because of her daughter, Wu Lingling didn't learn to be good since she was young. Now, she didn't go home and got involved with hooligans. She only graduated from junior high school and stopped studying. When others talked about Tangguo, their faces would be full of smiles and envy. When they talked about Wu Lingling, their faces would be full of disdain and they would whisper. She felt terrible too. If Wu Lingling had worked harder, she wouldn't have been so embarrassed. If Tangguo wasn't that outstanding, or if she could teach Wu Lingling, her daughter should have been better, right? When Mrs. Tang saw Qin Rulan's eyes darting around and looking as if she didn't know what she was doing, her heart sank. Wu Lingling also recovered from the slap and laughed coldly. Tangguo is a hypocrite. Why did she do all this? Of course, it's because she can't stand her hypocrisy. I just want to see what kind of expression she will have when she fails the college entrance exam. I want to see if you adults will still like her. Wu Lingling was going all out. Since the truth had been exposed, she didn't want to rely on these people for a living. She didn't want these relatives who looked down on her anyway. Especially Mrs. Tang, she hated them the most. Wasn't it just helping her transfer schools and paying her school fees? She was controlling her from above. Her mother didn't even raise her head in front of her. She didn't even care for this kind of charity. When Mrs. Tang heard Wu Lingling's words, she wasn't angry anymore. Wu Lingling was now rotten to the core. After everything that had happened in that dream, she wouldn't be surprised if Wu Lingling said anything outrageous. Very good. You want to harm our Xiaoguo, right? So what if I am? Didn't that mean no harm was done? Wu Lingling sneered, I don't know tomorrow. You'd better keep a close eye on her. Don't let her cry at home every day when she can't take the college entrance examination. Mrs. Tang was no longer angry. She glanced at Qin Rulan and said, Rulan, look at your daughter. Are you still going to interfere? Don't instigate my mother. Don't sow discord in front of my mother. My mother and I are mother and daughter. Don't try to use my mother to control me. I won't listen to her. Generally speaking, Wu Lingling's case was not a big deal. Unfortunately, she had overlooked one thing. That was, Tangguo was the most outstanding student in the city. If someone wanted to sabotage her college entrance examination, how could the higher-ups sit still? Mrs. Tang didn't do anything to Wu Lingling. She just made a fuss about it. She wanted to see how society would react to her outstanding daughter being threatened by a bad girl who wanted to sabotage Tangguo's college entrance examination. Wu Lingling thought that the police wouldn't be able to do anything about it. She didn't expect this to be exposed. Peak. Chapter 1424. Immediately, the higher-ups issued orders to detain Wu Lingling. As for how long it would take, they did not say. In any case, Wu Lingling was not allowed to ruin Tangguo's college entrance exams. Qin Rulan even pleaded for her, saying that Wu Lingling was insensible. Insensible? Wu Lingling was younger than Tangguo by less than a year. Tangguo was 18 this year and Wu Lingling would be 18 next year. How could she be insensible when she was already an adult? Mother Tang had completely given up on the so-called sisterly bond. She had even exposed this matter to Father Tang. Wu Lingling had harmed her daughter. In the dream world, her daughter had endured all the pain silently. In the end, the pain hidden under the glamour was exposed. Everyone did not sympathize with Xiao Guo. Instead, they blamed her. Since that was the case, why couldn't Wu Lingling expose the fact that she had gone overboard? Within a day, Wu Lingling's matter was known to the entire country. In the afternoon, Tang Guo walked out of the examination hall feeling refreshed. When she heard that Wu Lingling was being reported by the media, her lips curled. Then, she would let Wu Lingling become more famous. Since she was so shameless, she would not give her any face in the future. Alright, great host. With the help of the system, Wu Lingling became famous once again. Her matter had a huge impact and she was reprimanded countless times with concrete evidence. Hence, she was really detained for a long time. It had been a few days since Tang Guo's college entrance exams ended and she was still not released. Even Lu Jing had no way of getting Wu Lingling out. With such a huge impact, Wu Lingling had to be reprimanded properly before she could be released. He knew about what Wu Lingling had done. He also knew about Wu Lingling's relationship with Brother Dao. Even though he was angry, he chose to forgive her eventually. He truly liked Wu Lingling. However, he did not know that Wu Lingling had intimate relations with Brother Dao and those hooligans. Till now, he did not know that his head was already glowing with a green glow. He also did not know that Father Lu was watching everything that he had been through so far. After countless disappointments, he had already calmed down. In his heart, he had silently given up on him and turned to nurture other outstanding children. Even with Lu Jing's mother's influence, he could at most live a carefree life in the Lu family. It was impossible for him to take over the Lu Corporation. When Tang Guo heard this from the system, she was even happier than when she got full marks in the college entrance examination. Ever since the incident with Wu Lingling, Mrs. Tang had cut off all contact with Qin Rulan. Other relatives in the family knew what Wu Lingling had done. Of course, they didn't want to have anything to do with Qin Rulan anymore. Qin Rulan actually wanted Mother Tang to keep the peace. Wu Lingling had done so many bad things in the past. Every time, the victim had to give in. What kind of logic was that? Qin Rulan and her husband must have something to do with Wu Lingling's bad behavior. Therefore, it was better not to acknowledge them as relatives. Who knew if Wu Lingling would think of them and dislike them and make trouble for them? Their family didn't have a good student who could score close to full marks. Who would support them? The results of the college entrance examination were out. They were 1 point away from full marks. The Tang family was very happy, and Tang Guo's peers were also proud of her. Wu Lingling was released and Lu Jing went to pick her up. Lingling, how did you get involved with Brother Dao? Lu Jing's tone was somewhat reproachful. Wu Lingling had been unhappy recently. The moment she heard those words, she exploded. Lu Jing, what do you mean by that? Are you suspecting me? You left without a word. If I can't find you for help, can't I find someone else? Fupin the Peak. Chapter 1425. Lingling, I've sent you a message. My mom is in the hospital and I've gone to visit her. Wu Lingling's unreasonable and insensible ways were tiring on Lu Jing's heart. No matter how much Wu Lingling kicked up a fuss on other matters, he wouldn't feel anything. However, his mother was the only person he cared about. She was also his only kin in this world. Now that his mother was seriously ill, he had merely gone back to visit her. He had also sent her a message in between. He hadn't expected that Wu Lingling would create so much trouble when his mother returned from the hospital. Aside from ruining Tang Guo's college entrance exams, he had heard from Wu Lingling that no one in the family Tang liked her. He could understand that feeling. After all, in the Lu family, other than his mother, no one else liked him. Even his father's other lovers would often say ambiguous things in front of his mother, which made his mother so angry that she fell ill. Therefore, he felt that ruining Tangua's college entrance exams was because Tangua had provoked Wu Lingling. What he couldn't accept was that Wu Lingling was related to Brother Knife. He had always been at odds with Brother Knife and his gang. Wu Lingling didn't know who was behind Brother Knife, but he knew very well. This time, the woman who had caused his mother to fall ill was the mother of one of the Lu family's young masters behind Brother Knife's boss. Don't interact with Brother Knife anymore. Lu Jing's tone softened at the thought of how Wu Lingling had been wronged as well. After all, Wu Lingling had been with him for so many years and had even had 2 abortions because of his carelessness. Actually, he really liked Wu Lingling. However, he vaguely felt that they shouldn't be like this. He recalled how his mother had held his hand on the hospital bed and told him to work harder. His heart was sour as he held Wu Lingling's hand. Lingling. What? Wu Lingling's tone wasn't good, but she didn't blame Lu Jing anymore. She knew very well what kind of relationship she had with Brother Knife and his gang. If things were to blow up and those things were to be exposed, it wouldn't do her any good. She couldn't go home now because the family Tang hated her. Her mother felt that she was an embarrassment and her father only knew how to drink and play cards all day long. He didn't care about his daughter at all. She had to rely on Lu Jing for her living expenses. Therefore, she couldn't really provoke Lu Jing. Lu Jing had already softened his tone, and she knew when to stop. If Lu Jing ignored her, she would really be homeless. All her confidence came from Lu Jing. Lingling, my mother is seriously ill this time. Lu Jing hesitated for a moment before saying, I don't want to go on like this, Lingling. I don't want my mother to look sad and hurt every time she sees me. What do you mean? I want to go home, Lingling, I want to go home. I want to learn from my dad. Maybe I won't have a bright future, but at least my mom won't have to worry. Besides, we can't go on like this forever, can we? Lu Jing spoke carefully, afraid that he would anger Wu Lingling. Wu Lingling was not angry this time. She asked in a low voice, what about me? I'll take you with me, what do you say? Wu Lingling's eyes lit up. Really? Of course it's true. If I didn't plan to bring you back with me, why would I tell you this? Wu Lingling knew that Lu Jing came from a good family and was the young master of the Lu group. How could she be unwilling? Fupin Vertex. Chapter 1426. Host, Lu Jing intends to bring Wu Lingling back to the Lu family city. He must have woken up after his mother fell ill. What was the reaction of the young master of the Lu family? He did not seem to care much about Lu Jing and felt that the current Lu Jing was no match for him. He was still happy about the green mark on Lu Jing's head. Let me remind him that no matter how bad Lu Jing looked now, as long as he was given the chance, he would definitely surpass many people. Since he was in a wealthy family, he should not let his guard down against any opponent. At the very least, he should not underestimate any opponent for the sake of inheriting the entire Lu family. The system smiled secretly. Host, don't worry, I've been keeping an eye on Lu Jing. As long as he does something outstanding, I'll use all sorts of methods to let the young master of the Lu family know how scary Lu Jing is. By then, he won't be able to sit still. Well done, Tongzi. Your IQ has improved. You even know how to get someone else to do your dirty work. Tang Guo was not stingy with her praises. This made the system very happy. Didn't it learn a lot from being by its great host's side? Now, we just need to show Lu Jing's growth to the young master of the Lu family. I believe he will think of a way to deal with Lu Jing soon. The current Lu Jing was not the Lu Jing of the future. The young master of the Lu family's methods were enough to deal with him. Moreover, he had Wu Lingling's weakness in his hands. When everything was exposed, Lu Jing would probably faint from anger. As the system spoke, it felt that it and its host were like villains who were hiding in the dark and stirring up trouble. Forget it, it did not matter. As long as the great host felt relieved, it was fine. Wu Lingling followed Lu Jing back to the Lu family city. Lu Jing did not dare to bring Wu Lingling back to the Lu family. Firstly, the Lu family was more complicated and he was afraid that Wu Lingling would be bullied. Secondly, given Wu Lingling's current situation, if she was brought back, his father's lovers would definitely mock her in front of his mother. At the end of the day, Wu Lingling was not presentable and was not presentable. The Lu family was after all an upper-class family. No matter how bad their descendants were, they would definitely become a joke if they brought back an incompetent delinquent girl. Lu Jing did like Wu Lingling, but in his heart, the most important person was still his mother who gave birth to him and raised him. He was also afraid that his mother would not be able to accept Wu Lingling. He didn't lack money, so he rented a house for Wu Lingling. He gave her enough money, so Wu Lingling was very satisfied. Seeing that Wu Lingling did not have any objections, Lu Jing went to study with Father Lu. Lu Jing was almost 20 years old and was already an adult. He had dropped out of high school before even finishing high school. To be honest, the young master and young mistress of the Lu family did not take him seriously at all. However, his mother had always held a special place in his father's heart and had always given him special treatment. At first, no one cared. It was only because of the system that the young master of the Lu family, who was against Lu Jing, realized how terrifying Lu Jing was. Lu Jing was especially smart and could pick it up almost instantly. Even if he made mistakes everywhere, as long as he missed it once, he would never make the same mistake a second time. Such a Lu Jing finally made the most competitive young master of the Lu family afraid. He felt that he had to stop Lu Jing's growth. Otherwise, given the special treatment Father Lu gave to Mother Lu, Lu Jing might really be able to make a comeback. Fupin Vertex. Chapter 1427. The university that Tang Guo was going to was in the same city as the Lu family. The university in this city was considered one of the top universities in the country. Of course, she could have chosen other universities that were as good as or even better than this one. However, from the original owner's wish, she could see that the original owner's wish was to go to this university. Therefore, she naturally had to fulfill this small wish. Ever since the system revealed to the young master of the Lu family that Lu Jing was not a simple person and that he could rise to power if he was given a little chance, he no longer looked down on Lu Jing. The other party no longer belittled Lu Jing and started to target him in the dark. He even recruited a lot of helpers. As expected, things did not go so smoothly for Lu Jing. He did not even have the chance to perform. In fact, because of that young master's scheme, Lu Jing's father gradually felt that Lu Jing was a loser who couldn't be supported by a wall. Lu Jing's father's disappointment, blame, and indifference caused Lu Jing to lose the little bit of hope he had. Once there was no one to encourage him or believe in his ability, he would definitely become dispirited. The most effective way to attack someone was to destroy their confidence, beliefs, and all their hopes. This would make them feel the indifference of the world. Every day, they would hear the world doubting their ability and thinking that they were worthless. No matter how outstanding a person was, there was a 99% chance that they would become depraved and lose all hope. If Wu Lingling was not a delinquent girl but a kind, cheerful, and pure girl who was full of positive energy, she might be able to pull Lu Jing out of his hole. Unfortunately, Wu Lingling was not like that. Compared to Lu Jing, she was even more depraved. Lu Jing was as tired as a dog every day. When he returned home, he still had to endure Wu Lingling's temper. The only warmth in his life came from his mother. However, after all his actions, his mother's gaze towards him was filled with sadness and disappointment. Therefore, the only place that gave him warmth could no longer give him warmth. Lu Jing was already suspecting that he was not capable at all. No matter what he did, he could not do it well. The young master of the Lu family heaved a sigh of relief when he saw Lu Jing's dejected look. Of course, this was not the end. Wasn't Wu Lingling still a useless chess piece? They did not choose to give those photos to Lu Jing directly. Instead, Lu Jing was busy during the day, so Brother Knife called Wu Lingling out to play. He inadvertently revealed some information about Lu Jing to Wu Lingling, causing her expression to change drastically. Brother Dao, you must be joking. How could it be a joke? I have a friend who works in the Lu Corporation. The young master of the Lu family will definitely marry someone from their circle in the future. Moreover, Lu Jing's performance is not bad. Many young ladies have taken a fancy to him. Wu Lingling's heart was in a mess. Lu Jing, who was almost 20 years old, was indeed becoming more and more handsome. Most of the time, when he wore that decent suit, she would be mesmerized. She liked Lu Jing. Firstly, she liked Lu Jing's money. Secondly, she liked Lu Jing's good looks. Thirdly, she liked Lu Jing's obedience to her. She believed that many girls would take a fancy to Lu Jing. She had always thought that Lu Jing belonged to her and would always belong to her. Now that he heard Brother Knife's words, he panicked. Lu Jing likes me. He won't fall for those women. Fupin Chinese Vertex. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.